If ye seek, ye shall find. Because no mystery is closed to an open mind. We keep you up to date so you can decide your own fate. Welcome to Maxim Axiom Radio. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Maxim Axiom Radio. I'm your host, Roger Sylver. Today's show will be like no other created before it. Stormm and I have been planning this one out because it's a very special show dedicated to those who heard the call when John and I did a show together on Maxim Axiom Radio in August of 2014, asking for as much assistance for John as possible, because his health and living standards had deteriorated so bad that we came very close to losing him. 9 months later, we now find John in much better health and reunited with his family. This show is to thank each and every one of you who listened and then acted soon after, assisting John with his health in a plethora of different ways, which has now brought him to where he is today. Though things could be a bit better for John regarding his health, he couldn't be happier at present. This episode with John is a special slideshow, the first ever created for Maxim Axiom Radio, and a way to say thank you to all who have contributed to John's overall health and well-being. Eternal thanks from John, his immediate family, along with Milady Lahila and myself. So, sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Roger Sylver here, and Roger Sylver on Maxim Axiom Radio, of course. And we've got with us Mr. John Stormm. And I got to tell you, folks, really quick, it took some amazing feats of mental agility to make this freaking thing happen. I'm actually doing a slideshow and a screen share with John via Skype, and this is taking like 4 different programs to create. And if you're nice, I might let you in on the secrets on how it's done. But 4 different programs to make it, get it out to you. But this is a slideshow we put together because John and I were talking about this for a while now, and he wants people, and I agree with him totally, he wants people to see just exactly what he is talking about when he's talking about, the orbs. I mean, the orbs I've been catching my entire life as well, John. Orb Master, they used to call me back in the day. Yeah, they did. And anyway, John, if you're not familiar with John, he is a hereditary Tuathan Danaan witch, and it was Tuathan before Danaan, right? Or Danaan before Tuathan?
Well, Tuatha just means the people of, or the children of,
okay.
The children of Danu.
Okay, well, there you go. And so we are just going to start with the slideshow. We've got a few slides put together, and this is the first time we're actually doing this on Maxim Axiom Radio. And, it is supposed to be radio, but this time we decided to put visual aids together so people can actually see what John is speaking about, as John explained to me before the show, that they actually get to see what's going on. You get to see what's going on rather than imagining it. So we put together this little slideshow, and it might turn into a part 2, part 3. We'll see how this one plays out. Yeah. So, John, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, brother and master. All right. And this is John Stormm, folks. Brother Master John Stormm, excuse me. And martial arts master, of course. And John, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Glad to be talking to you. I'm at my new home up in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, up in the mountains. Doing a lot better now, health-wise. Still not totally healthy or anything, just doing better than I was doing back in the city back in New York. Kind of enjoying the wild country a bit, and that funny smelling fresh air and the better tasting water without the fluoride in it, and just enjoying life and training my grandsons, and living a whole lot better than I was.
Right on. And well, it was in August, 9 months ago, that we actually put the call out on Maxim Axiom Radio to see if we could gather assistance for and to you to assist with your health, because your health was failing big time and you were getting nothing but the runaround from attorneys and doctors, and just a big
anybody that had any kind of federal funding whatsoever. When you're an MK Ultra survivor, and I'm not, I walked away from it. Hey, they were going to kill me anyway. That my last few missions went south, like they were trying to get me killed off. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm living my own life, but they don't like that. And once upon a time, I was content to try to raise my family and not say much. Nobody was going to believe me anyway. So it was no big deal, but they still wouldn't leave you alone, and that was true with the doctors. And that doctor left me with all kinds of things that I was suffering from. I was taking my meds and going into ketoacidosis already. So I started losing my hair and my teeth and about a pound of flesh a day. And I was never a fat man, athletic, muscular, still on the lean side, nothing like Schwarzenegger or anything like that. But that ultra conditioning, I owned that. As much as was humanly possible. But the doctors and the systems, like I say, anything that had any federal funding whatsoever was leaving me in the lurch. And last August, when I was talking to you, like I says, I was already even taking all my meds, running into the ketoacidosis. I had it twice before. The first time I lost about a quarter of my body weight and had to snap back. The last time I had it, I ended up within hours of all of my organs shutting down, and I lost a full third of my body weight. I think you might have some pictures in there of what I looked like.
As a matter of fact, I've got one picture that says it all, really, in the next couple coming up. But folks, I have to apologize really quick as well. If you're hearing interference, well, John out there in the mountains of New Hampshire is actually coming in via satellites over here to England, where Lady Lahila and I are right now. And we're doing our best. Maybe we're getting hit with sunspots and or a solar storm. I have no clue, but every once in a while you might hear them echo a little bit. We're going to try to clean it up the best we can when I render the audio, edit the audio as well. So anyway, John, I'm going to move ahead with the next photo here.
Okay.
All right. This is you circa 1977 as Thumper, yeah?
Yeah, that's about what I looked like when I was an active ultra. People seeing that had no idea what kind of strength or speed they were dealing with. I wasn't as strong as Duncan. Duncan could deadlift about 1,000 pounds, a half ton. I could punch at about 3/4 of a ton, but lift maybe 500, 600, 700 pounds, about 700 or so. With the ultra physique under there. I was always prone to wearing black. It's kind of my station in life as a witch. And I like to remember that, but also as a ninja, it's a nice color for blending into shadows and disappearing easily. In this particular picture, I think I was getting ready to go out with one of my brother-in-laws to a disco somewhere, and you can't tell it by looking at that so much, but there's probably 8 or 9 weapons hidden within that outfit.
Oh, I bet.
I never went anywhere unarmed. Um, yeah, you see, I was a big hit with the Mexicans when we went across the border. They just see this tall blonde gringo and figure I was a wimp. And I remember when I first joined up with the Disney Tunes, we met down near Brownsville, Texas. It's near the border, and we met in this little cantina, and there was these guys trying to be, they were very big on being macho, that machismo, and they had this little game that they'd play in the cantina. Is they'd hold each other by the forearms together, kind of like shaking hands Indian style.
Yeah, I remember
so
that.
their forearms are joining, and they take a cheroot, kind of a cigar, a little bigger than a cigarette, not quite as big as a stogie, and they'd set it in between their two arms, and the first one to pull away from the burning was the sissy had to buy the rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I come, my team was already there at the cantina when I got there. I come cruising in. I'm wearing this GI shirt with the sleeves cut off. The chest is open. I got that big yin yang brand on my chest kind of showing that was still fairly new. And they weren't sure they were going to like me. I looked too much like a cocky freaking teenager of about 15. I was about 6'5" though. So very tall, but kind of slim, rakish, you might say.
Right.
And they figure, oh, damn, this fool's going to get us killed. And so the Mexicans took one look at me and said, oh, boy, we're going to pick on this boy. I said, how about you, gringo? You want to try this? You man enough for this? And I told them, well, we'll keep this G-rated and say, well, playing with cigars is for sissies. What are you talking about, man? So I picked up somebody's newspaper and I just kind of balled it up in a big ball and I lit it on they had these little candles, colored glass, and the candles on the center of each of the tables.
Yeah.
And I lit the paper on one of the candles and I just kind of let it just stand there and burn in my hand and burn and burn and burn. And then I put it out on my chest, on my bare chest. And man, you're crazy. And I says, do you see any burns? So cigars are for sissies, so they had to buy me the round, and my team start warming up to me a little bit.
Oh wow! So when did the Disney Tunes come together? How did that happen?
Well, back then, shortly after I did my little Cambodian stint, I started to do contract work, or Ultra would contract us out to the CIA, the alphabet agencies, and stuff like that. And my first little call was, they says, okay, here's they give me an issue of Soldier of Fortune, and there's like want ads in the back. And back during the 70s, that was kind of like their Blackwater or Dark Waters or whatever the hell that was called. But mercenaries would answer ads in there, and a lot of this stuff was funded by the CIA. So they says, okay, this is the ad that we want you to call in on. And whatever they say, do. We already know what the deal is. It's not like you gotta guess whether it's something good or bad. You can still pretty much choose whether what kind of jobs you want to take on. There was a lot going on in Angola. I wanted nothing to do with that. There was a lot going on in Nicaragua that I didn't particularly like or wasn't sure. I went there a couple times, but for something a little bit different. So I could pick what agreed with me. If it was something really bad, I didn't have a conscientious problem with taking out a murdering monster. Anyway, we went for a little week-long training camp kind of get-together type thing. And there was a bunch of mercs there, a lot more than I usually traveled with. And eventually we kind of got busted up into teams because a lot of us are cross-trained. We have more than one discipline that we're good at. Like our particular unit was called Disney Tunes. I was called Thumper because I used to do these karate shows, exhibitions, especially after I got my master's belt. And we'd have like four black belts holding either bricks or really thick planks. We're not talking about the little skinny boards.
Right.
Around me in like 4 different directions, and we tell the audience, okay, you can punch it so many pounds per square inch in about 4 times a second. And you know how long a second is? It's the time it'll take you to yell 1001. And the announcer would get up and say, okay, you ready? Everybody yell at 1001 and 1, and I all 4 of these boards or bricks and bust them. So when I'd work out on the heavy bag, it sounded like a machine gun shotgun going off. It's just this heavy thump, 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 like that. So I ended up with Thumper as a call sign. Goofy was our heavy weapons and demolitions expert. Anything that had a deep resounding boom, well, that was Goofy's job. Mickey Mouse, he was our team leader. He hated that his name was Mike, so we used to call him Iron Mike.
Did he talk like this too?
No, he didn't. He was a stout little square jawed. He was Army Ranger or ex-Army Ranger. Had some rank too. I was kind of the young guy in the group, but I was the ultra. They all weren't ultras. Doc, he was a great sniper and also great. He was a doctor, an MD. Me, I also did field stitching. I also did some demolitions, and I was also point man or along those lines, depending on what the mission was. Minnie Mouse was our go-to gal. She was the one that would make arrangements for hotels, pickups, drops, weapons, and whatever we had to get. We all knew she was CIA. She always denied it, but so we never really fully trusted her, but she didn't really let us down much. We had a Dopey and a number of other people, but they didn't go on really a lot of missions with us. Probably about a third of my missions had something to do with an assassination of some sort, whether something that had to look like an accident or just go in and shoot the hell out of the place.
Right. Well, Dopey doesn't really sound like someone you want tagging along with you in your little ragtag.
He was one of my favorites, and Doc really should have been called Grumpy because he was really a grumpy guy.
Right on.
He was always that way. He got up, he went to bed grumpy, and he just liked being that way, I guess.
Well,
looked a lot like picture Duncan, a little bit taller with a face more like Adrian Paul from Highlander, but with a big square lantern jaw.
Right on. Wow. All right, let's move on to the next one, shall we?
All right.
The short-haired and long-haired wizard.
Yeah. After about, I think it was spring of '93. And actually, that was the plasma ball deal. There was that was around the time that we did the opening the portal. Or it was that year, that summer that we did that into Gwynedd and let Sundog through. During that time, I was moderator of the Intellect Paranormal Conference on the Intellect Network. Internet was a little bit different than it is today. Less pictures, more line of type thing. You'd download pictures to your local bulletin board, and people would access the bulletin board and get the pictures. But I had a lot of psychics from all over the world and shamans and that, and saying, I keep getting this thing. You're supposed to be growing your hair. And, another one would tell me, yeah, Jesus told me that you need to grow your hair. And I figured, well, yeah, you're a nice person. Maybe a little light in the loafers or something like that. But, they know what they know, and how they know it. Well, each has kind of got their own idea of what they, but
yeah,
I found it usually good to listen to them. And then my wife and my little sister were watching a Sting concert, and they'd say, if you let your hair grow, you would look just like Sting. And it's kind of like, what the hell is it with this long hair stuff all the time? So one morning I get up and I'm just kind of shaving and grooming myself, and I'm looking in the mirror, and this little voice kind of says, when your hair starts growing long, you'll have to wear it in a warrior spray to keep it out of your eyes, which was one of my concerns. I'd let my hair kind of get shaggy, but by the time it got to where it actually covered my eyes, I'd get it cut. And this was so, I was fighting a lot of tournaments. I got sent out on a lot of these, and sometimes that was my cover as an ultra. But it's kind of like, okay, what is this? So I finally get up there. Christians would talk about placing a fleece, and they're talking about a bit of a story out of the book of Judges about Gideon. And Gideon gets told that he's going to be this mighty general, and he ain't buying it. So he says, okay, Lord, if this is for real, if I put this fleece on the floor of my tent and you make the ground wet and the fleece dry, then I know this is from you. And it kind of like he gets up the next morning and, of course, the ground's wet and the fleece is dry. And he goes, but maybe it's supposed to work that way. So he says, all right, Lord, I'm really sorry for bugging you, but I'm going to put the fleece down this time. If this is really you saying this, let the fleece be wet and the ground be dry. So the next morning he gets up and the fleece is wet. I mean, he wrings out a full bowl of water out of this fleece. So I'm thinking, okay, here's a way to test and see if this is something, the Creator really wants me to do. I'm no stranger to communicating with God's small g, but I'm kind of interested that the Creator is taking this great of an interest in me and has such a bizarre request as to grow my hair or to not ever cut it again. And so I go into my den and I get on my knees on the carpet, and I got 4 quarters in my pocket that I usually use for like coffee or stuff during the day when I go to work.
Right.
So I says, I'll make this impossible. I'm not going to just flip a coin. Hey, it's 50-50. It could go either way. It's kind of like, I'm not really crazy about growing my hair. It's more trouble than it's worth. And so it's kind of like, I'm going to make this impossible. Okay, I'm going to close my eyes, and one by one, I'm going to flip these quarters. And if they all come down on the floor, touching each other, and it's all heads up with the noses all pointing straight to my left, all in the same direction, I'll believe that that's you and that you want me not to cut my hair ever again. And
talk about performance anxiety.
Yeah. I closed my eyes, I flipped and each one was overlapping the other just a little bit. And all of the noses, heads up, all of the noses pointing straight to the left. And it's kind of like, okay, I can't argue with that. and I never cut my hair again after that. It got really, really long for a point, and down past my butt, and it was giving me migraines. But I didn't cut it. What I did is I took it in my fist, and stuck it in the fire and burned the end off so that it was a little shorter and not giving me the migraines anymore.
Oh man, that burning hair stings so, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's how the Greeks used to cut their hair. They just kind of wet it a little bit, take it up in their fingers with their fingers wet, and they take a little torch, like a little rolled up paper torch, and singe the ends off, and that's how they used to cut their hair.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Now, what is that? What is that you got manifesting in your hand right there? That's a ball of plasma. From where and how did you manifest it?
That particular area was like heavy duty. One of those places where you walk into and I don't know how many people, but your hair wants to stand up, your skin prickles like crazy. It's not an unpleasant type of thing. Not as bad as like in a lightning storm just before you're about to get struck.
Oh yeah.
But it was just full of energy. And I did have a tiny little quartz crystal, probably about an inch long, just a natural crystal in my palm. And it was resonating with my chi, and I could just draw up all this energy from the ground, and I could feel it. Actually, I didn't see it so much as what you see in the picture, but I could feel it. It felt like a big ball of cotton in my hands.
That's exactly what it looks like.
That's what it felt like. And I was getting ready. I was making like I was going to throw it at the camera. I didn't. I ended up throwing it at a tree. It didn't really have a whole lot of effect, and I lost my quartz crystal.
Aww.
Well, I had a bunch of them. I'd use them for different experiments. I generally take my wizard's bag out, and sometimes we take the camera, try to document, and I'd try a few experiments with different things. I'm always finding rifts, and me and my kids, we've walked on other worlds and never left in a spaceship. Just by some of the experiments that we've done with energy and stuff in places where there's rifts. It's like a tear in the space-time continuum. And it's different than a portal, because a portal's kind of held open and it's fixed. A rift tends to be like a gossamer curtain blowing gently in kind of a breeze. It doesn't stay in exactly the same place all the time. It'll be somewhere nearby. You kind of get a general location for it. And it's just a tear. It's just somehow something somewhere, maybe on the other side or something, caused this little tear. And if you're energized or something and you walk through, you're not in Kansas anymore. You're in a different universe, like. Oftentimes very much like the one you left, but not exactly. But you resonate, let's describe them as frequencies. And let's say that where we're at now is in the key of G. And you walk into another universe and it's in the key of C. And there's certain harmonics that you kind of carry with you that's in your own aura, and that may be kind of amenable to the key of C, at least for a little while. But sooner or later, the physics of that universe realizes that you don't belong there. So you're there usually an hour or less on the average for most people when it happens, before you get booted out. You find yourself about a quarter mile, or sometimes more from where you actually entered the thing when it sets you back into your own universe. Now, in my book, Practical Witchery, I describe that when we talk about cryptozoological animals, like the Jersey Devil gets seen, and people will they'll send old parties into the woods to look for it, or the Loch Ness Monster, they'll dive all over the place for it. I believe that what they are is they're in another world. They cross over, they're here for a while, but eventually they're not going to be here for very long. An hour or so later, they're going to be back in their own universe, and you're going to be wondering, where the hell did it go? Why isn't there a viable population of these in these woods? You'll have credible witnesses, but you can't find a viable population. You can't find a dead one. That's kind of how that happens.
Okay, that explains exactly. Have you ever seen the TV show Fringe? Law and I actually downloaded the entire series, and we freaking love it. But they talk about how Walter is this crazy scientist, mad scientist, if you will, and he creates a rift over to another parallel world. Now, both worlds, theirs was vibrating in the key of G, and the bridge that they created for it to connect with the other world was vibrating in the key of C, if I remember correctly. And there were doubles of everybody. The Statue of Liberty was made out of freaking copper. And you know what? If I can get these episodes to you, I will, because you will dig it. It was a really cool show on CBS.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but they took it offline, and also the Watchers. I'm going to bring up the Watchers really quick. They actually give their take. J.J. Abrams, whomever else, the writers give their take of who these Watchers are and how they came to be. Just a really, really cool show. We kind of wish they weren't canceled.
There's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, but they were proving this on Fringe. Well, I shouldn't say proving this. People like yourself.
Well, actually, yeah, physicists. I've got a lot of friends that are physicists. We love talking to math.
Okay.
And I love talking that. Well, this is my experience. You got a formula for it. I'd like to kind of get together till we can get it all. Like I keep thinking, sooner or later in my lifetime, I'm going to find out exactly everything that's required to make this happen every time. So, when you can perform something, it goes beyond theory. When you can do it every time, now it becomes fact and not theory. When you can test it and teleport, move from one place to another. I've done it, but can I do it with any consistency? No, because I'm missing something. Don't know something.
Right.
So
But
like I
also,
say, the math is there. The quantum physicists, all of this is true that we're discussing, and that the Abrams people. I'd really like to see that, because basically it's an artist concept of some actual mathematical fact.
right, exactly. Now, oh God, what was I going to say? Yes, it was vibrating universes at different nodes. All right, that they bridged together, and alternates of ourselves that were slightly off. Now, in this realm, my voice apparently vibrates at the key of D. Don't remember if it's sharp, flat, or what, but it was really cool that they took this and made a show out of it and called it fringe science. And I'm like, oh my God! But this fringe science, to adepts, as you put them, people like myself, like yourself, like Duncan, whomever else, we can tune into these things, right? And we can see what's going to happen if we choose, because these realities, these parallel universes,
that timeline is active in that other world,
right?
And you're seeing it, and there's people, yourself or very like yourself. I get the feeling that the copies of myself also jump and move from one world to the next, or something around those times.
Right.
So it might be somebody else on some other parallel that's actually instigating this. Because I've never ran into myself yet. I've seen myself astrally, looking in on something else, but I was astral traveling instead of physical traveling. Because what I'm talking about going through the rifts, I'm talking about an actual physical crossover. I'm there. I can punch stuff and it breaks, and
Right.
I once put my fist through the eye of a something like a plesiosaur, trying to snatch at a kid on the shore. I drove it in almost up to my elbow. Technique they call eagle's beak in Chinese Kempo. So I mean, you have a physical effect, but there's things that happen, and it's kind of like, it's the interesting thing about the Creator. In the biblical text, they say He knows the beginning from the end, and everything you're going to do, He knows the outcome of it. And it's kind of like, now how would He do it? If you got the free will to make this choice to go right or to go left or straight up the middle or turn around and go back or whatever, how would He know how that was going to turn out? And it's kind of like, it's played out in multiple universes.
Yep.
And since He's the creator of all of this, the matrix of all of this, where all of this exists into, that's how He would know. That's why I say, well, nobody can see God anytime, or He'd go mad or die or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I can imagine that from what I've seen so far, just of reality, as itself and multiple universes. I could see where that drives somebody nuts.
Oh yeah, totally. Especially if they're not used to it. Like there are versions of myself we talked about before where they have died. One in a nuclear war that actually took place in the 90s and wiped everything out. And then there was another one where there was a tidal wave coming in through the Pacific and made Phoenix, Arizona beachfront property, but not before wiping everything out in Phoenix. And I actually died in both of those. So those splinters, I shouldn't say splinters, but those counterparts of my overall soul spirit actually found me. And I remember the night in 1994 that took place, and I'll save that for another show. But I have those memories of like I really lived them. I remember the pain. I remember drowning. I remember all of it. And being able to trip the timelines, if you will. It's almost like you're up on a wall. The best way I can explain it from my point of view is perspective. Is you're up on a wall and you're looking down into these different rooms, these different bubbles of reality.
Most people are just looking through a knothole.
Right, exactly.
Very narrow vision. They only see just so much, and this is what we're trying to wake people up from, going from the 3-dimensional to at least 5-dimensional while you're here. And when you get to 5-dimensional, you're where you should be, where you understand your dreams, and you're beginning to perceive beyond your dogmatic 5 senses. You'll see a lot bigger picture. And those people that are waking up, we'll begin to see and experience more and more. There's going to be bizarre things. I get people emailing me almost every day about, hey, this just happened. This is totally weird as all get out, and I need help, or I might need help, or I don't even know what to think. And it's like we talk about it, and it's like it's stuff they're waking up to. More and more of their actual who they are. See, we've all been kind of enslaved and encumbered and shackled and put in these little stained glass boxes where we can't really see out and realize the creatures we really are.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, you go to work every day, and you buy a house and you raise a family and you pay taxes, and that's all they want you to understand you are, just to be a good slave, empowering them. But you're intended, every one of you out there are intended to be something bigger and greater than that. In fact, greater than your masters. The fact that they're ruling over you is not a seemly or a right thing by any stretch of the imagination. You're better than that. You'll become greater than them, but you can't be nailed down to where just this material world that you can experience in 4D at best is all there is, because it's not true.
Right. When it comes down to it, we're actually trying to teach people how to become their own masters, right?
Absolutely. That's what you're really fit for. That's what you were born in. That's what your destiny is. It's the excuse, I'm only human, don't work. It's kind of like, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, and you're gonna learn from them, and hopefully, and you're gonna grow from them, and you're gonna become greater. Most of the wisest people got that way from making a lot of mistakes, and sometimes learn. And the wisest of us learn mostly from other people's mistakes rather than making them all ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah,
and that's how it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
You even learn from a fool. You learn from a fool what not to do and why. The Lakota got a really good concept for teaching their people. They have it's kind of a clown. They call him a heyoka, and the heyoka, they get up and they do stuff that's wrong. They'll do stuff that's goofy or something. So and the kids will laugh and stuff like that, and they learn what not to do. And they learn from the heyoka. It's a certain kind of a clown. It's a good concept. You can learn from anybody. You can learn from a fool what not to be.
Precisely. And I thank those people many times as well. It's just like, you know what? Thank you very much for experiencing that for me, because now I don't have to deal with it. We all have our own bag of crap that we come here to push through and deal with in our lives. But to overcome it and come out the other side is what exactly is that taking? What kind of intestinal fortitude? What kind of will does it take to be at the bottom and claw your way back up?
Well, that's the training for a witch, especially a Danaan witch. That's one of our precepts. One of the first precepts we learn. One is what you call the threefold law. Everything you do, bad or good, comes back on you threefold, or at least with interest. Some believe more or less or whatever, but it's always with interest. The second one is to have an unbreakable will and word, and to develop that, to cultivate that, and and that makes you a proper witch. Now, when I say witch, I don't necessarily mean somebody in a pointy hat waving a broom with big wart on a green face nose. Witch in Gaelic means a wise one. And, to be wise, Jesus told his disciples and followers, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Be wise, understand how things work and what makes them work. Don't be afraid. Ooh, that's witchcraft. That's the craft of the wise. Learn it. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. What you know is good, use it. Utilize it. Keep your will and your word. Jesus said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Anything other than that basically comes from something shady. When people start waffling and they can't give you a right way, either they're uncertain or, which it's allowable. We can't always say what's going to happen tomorrow or how well our equipment's going to work to make the next Skype call or whatever,
Oh,
It's going to try,
Yep.
But if you give your word in anything, now look, it's a relatively Christian nation. Christianity here in America is 3,000 miles wide from coast to coast, and it's less than a quarter inch deep. They all have something to say about how everybody else is living, but look at this as a statistic: more than 1 out of every 2 marriages, Christian marriages, where they get up before an altar, a priest, and before God and everybody vow to stay with each other till death do us part. More than half of those marriages never last past a couple years, much less till death do us part. Okay, so the Bible also says the people that want to thump that thing. I love the book myself, but I don't believe in it like it's a magical item. I believe it is some of the wisest things I've ever read. But it says it's better not to make a promise at all than to make a promise before God and not keep it. Well, as a witch, I fully believe that. The ancient Celts fully believed that. That's how we conducted business. If you were a blacksmith or a potter or something like that, if you told somebody your product was going to be good for this, good for that, or some kind of guarantee, you were bound to your word. And this is how people knew whether or not they wanted to come to you to buy stuff. Your whole livelihood was based upon your word. Everything you did was based upon your word. Nobody had to have a written contract. Your word and a handshake was all it took. And if you failed that, everybody knew it or found about it eventually. And you found a lot less contracts and handshakes after that.
Right, exactly. Now, I have more pictures in here.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly how many more I put in here, as a matter of fact. So we're just going to go with the flow, man, and it's all ad-libbing. So
Right.
Here we go.
All right, find something you like and put it on there.
Here we go. I put this picture.
Okay.
I put this picture in here really quick for everybody there at home. Let me magnify this a little bit here. And will it whoa, that went too big. All right. It's like someone's trying to get someone's trying to get control of my mouse, really. It's weird.
Okay.
So anyway, I put this in here, folks, to show you just where John was when we did our interview to get the call out for assistance, to get John back into health. Yeah, because you were
in about 12 weeks from the time that started, which was before that picture, from the time that started to the time I ended up in the hospital with my organs shutting down in intensive care, that took about 12 weeks, and I lost about a third of my body weight. I looked like a walking skeleton. Actually, I got a little worse than that before I ended up in the hospital the last time. That's what I was heading for. Now, I was taking all the meds my doctor gave me. I was seeing him regularly every 3 months. So there's like no excuse for me to freaking die of diabetes. Okay. I should have been taken care of, but I'm a targeted individual. So anything the government can do and get in and influence somebody to make my life miserable or to kill me. And I'm not that easy to kill. I'm not the kind of guy you want to come up and try to kill. You want to point a gun with a sniper, I'll feel you miles away just because you're intensely looking at me, you're focused on me. So, I mean, it's not like it's an easy deal, but he was going this route. And when you guys all started helping and sending the supplements, you actually reversed that. By that August, I had figured I would be extremely lucky if I lived long enough to see Thanksgiving that year. Since it was only 12 weeks to almost kill me before, I figured, I already suffered a lot of organ damage to begin with, and I was suffering worse than I was before. So I figured 12 weeks at the outside is about all I had to live. And this was serious. This was no joking around. This was where I was heading, and those supplements, the gymnasium sylvestra, the magnesium and potassium that got sent me, the turmeric, the cinnamon, the colloidal silver, and all of that stuff. actually reversed that, you see what I look like today. Or even shortly after that, I took some pictures. They're on my Facebook page, but you'll see more as we're going, no doubt. But this is actually this is dying. And this is what your help. We're not talking about love that's just warm, fuzzy feelings for somebody. This is love with action behind it that actually had effect, that actually changed my destiny. Because that's what I was heading for.
Yeah, because by all rights and purposes, you were supposed to go last year, and our friend Win back in...
I wouldn't have lived long enough to see 2015.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, there was no way. And our friend Win looked at me one day. We were having a Skype conversation. She looked at me and she smiled. She goes, "You do realize that John was supposed to die last year, right?" And I said, "Yes, I know. Yes, I do. But we still need you down here, brother, to fight the good fight, because we're coming up to a climax, and I feel it. Everybody feels it, especially over here in England with the Tories getting back into power for another 5 years. But we'll talk about that later. Huh?
All right.
Yeah, just crazy. But anyway, folks, this is what we were able to bring John back from. Much love to you all. This little slideshow is for you. We bust our bust making this happen. So, yeah, here we go. On with the next. Okay, we are into your MRIs. Now, these get pretty trippy.
Now, I was trying to get diagnosed because I get these seizures, and I was getting blackouts and I still have them, but now I have my daughter to help me deal with them. So we went. The neurologist prescribed Dr. Mohideen had me go for an MRI. Now the interesting thing, I had a hell of a time getting these MRIs. In fact, they were supposed to be done and copies sent to the judge for my disability case and my lawyers. And they lied to them. They said that they never happened. They have a medical record that has almost nothing on it, no line of treatment or anything else. And they had sold me this CPAP machine. Well, my insurance company paid $1,000 for this machine that looks like it should retail at Walmart under $30 or something. But I had to actually go up in person and use the Jedi mind trick, you might say, but in a very real. I had to dominate a receptionist and a nurse to get this, because I wasn't supposed to have it. It's mine. It belongs to me, and the law says, but the law says anything it damn well wants when it wants something other than you to be breathing and doing whatever. As it turned out, the neurologist that had this scheduled was also trained at University of Rochester Medical Center, Building 400, where they were doing the human experiments. Every psych neurologist and such got some training that they wouldn't get anyplace else in the world in that unit there. But you can see that there, my lawyer says, when I finally got it, he says, "So what's to see? All you got to do is look for the white spots. That's the unusual stuff in your thing." Now we got a report, and this neurologist said, "Well, there's no enlarging of the hippocampus, and the sinuses look clear, and there's no abnormal swelling or shrinkage or anything like that in the brain. Evidently, your brain is supposed to shrink as you get older, and mine hasn't." He mentioned all kinds of things that weren't there, but he never said a word about what was there. I've talked to a couple other doctors since. They won't talk about what is there. And as you're looking at the white spots, you're look at this strange thing. It looks like a little black hole. Inside, we got these white spots. They're implants of some sort. Now, how they got in there, those ones are a little bit easier, I could see, because it's closer to the surface. But there's some you're going to see later on that are deep inside the brain. There's no scars. I mean, I still got the scars from the brain stem scarring that they did when I was a baby.
Yeah.
But I don't have no scars for like major surgery on my skull. So how this crap got in there, well, you can see a kind of break at the top there.
Yeah.
That little inner lining type deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a break there. So something did break from there. That might have been something done as a baby or something when there was still a soft spot on my skull. I don't know, but it's humanly impossible for some of this stuff to be in there.
Right, exactly. And, I do have a picture coming up. I don't know exactly where I'm pretty sure I put the scars in there. If not, I'll have to put it in there at another point. But,
okay.
Who knows how far we're going to get through this slideshow. We can always do a part 2 later on as well. Right. But, that WTF, another WTF, that's like literally, seriously, WTF.
Right. This blew my mind. I knew I might have one or two. I know I got one in my left hand. I figured there might be a little something, maybe the size of rice, maybe behind the left ear. I had a dream of when I was like 5 or 6 of these gray guys shoving a triangular thing up my nose. And after that, I start getting these really ferocious nosebleeds. And, my parents would say, it's just your imagination. You got an active imagination. You're going to be a great artist or a writer or something someday. But that's all it was. So I never thought much about it until I saw it on the MRIs. And it's like, okay, that wasn't a dream. And how some of this other stuff, I have no clue how it got in there. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. If I didn't see it for myself, I wouldn't have believed it.
Right. Now, you know what? Law and I actually saw a video about, it was my alien best friend or something like that. And they were talking about during this show where these beings had the technology to go and basically lift up the inside of the earth, with some sort of technology, so they could live in it for as long as they needed to, create a base, pull everything out, and then put everything back the way it was, essentially making a dimensional bubble, if you will. So maybe that's how they are getting these things into people nowadays, because
it describes, I was reading some stuff by Whitley Strieber. Well, he's also one of my Facebook friends. Mm-hmm. Originally, because I saw that gray on the cover, and it's kind of like, I remember this from when I was 5 or 6, and nobody know what I saw but me. And my parents wouldn't believe me or anything anyway. It was back with the active imagination.
Right.
And then years later, it's like the early 90s, here's this thing staring me right in the face on the cover of a book. And I read from him, and some of the stuff, how these creatures end up going through, he's got his house wired up for burglar alarms and everything else like that. And these creatures are just going through the wall. They got them in a thing of light, and they're taking them through the wall. Well, dimensionality, as we discussed, the atomic structure of everything is 99.99999% empty space.
Right.
It's a wonder that we cannot walk through the walls ourselves. The way that things are. Evidently, these creatures have the technology to actually do that. But I don't know anybody on Earth that's got it.
Well,
will admit to having it.
I got to tell you something really quick from, my experiences of growing up as well. When I was 3 years old, they would there was something, these beings, the Greys, communicating with me telepathically, telling me not to be afraid and things of that sort. They used to get me up in the middle of the night when I was 3 years old, and they used to take me and basically tell me to jump down a flight of stairs. And I'm like, what? So I turn, and I go to get a running start, and they said no. And I'm doing this at 3 years old, folks. All right. Yeah. And they tell me no. I'm like, okay. They say, stand right where you were and jump. And I'm like, what? So I did it. And they had me doing this all night long while my parents are asleep, all right? And they're having me jump down these stairs. We lived like in a fourplex, and they were inside these doors. And so they had me jumping down the stairs and things of that sort to where I was damn near levitating. I could feel the wind through my hair, but they wouldn't let me go back to bed until I landed on my feet at the bottom without losing my balance and using the door or the wall to prop myself up from falling over. I had to land on my feet. And they also, I remember them taking me through windows, through doors, and actually teaching me how to do it myself with my just being, really. And there was one time I remember where I actually got stuck. My calf got stuck, and I had a wooden plank going right through my calf. So, yeah, but anyway, let's move on to the next here. Yeah, now we have a little something here right in the middle.
All right. Yeah, there's that little B-shape or triangular shaped things that I remember from the dream, them shoving up my nose. And I got these wicked freaking nosebleeds after that. We used to, back then the doctors made house calls, and there was numerous times my doctor had to come and he'd say, well, he's high strung and he's nervous, and well, the ultra conditioning did that. You were always like freaked out. Parents would be threatening to send you to, the institution or anything like that, like it was some kind of military academy, and it was a lot worse than that. But that's the thing I remember, them shoving up my nose. And as far as I was concerned for years, up until I saw this picture, that was just a dream.
Right. Now, yeah, and see, I also suffered with the nosebleeds as well, too. Really bad, so bad that my mother took me.
So did Duncan and Miranda way back when, too.
Oh, great. Well, maybe I was one of these things, one of these ultra, who knows what they were training me for, but I also come from a military background. Both my grandfathers, both sides of the family, and my genetic father, all three of them being in the military. So who knows? But nosebleeds all the time. My mother took me to the emergency room and thought I was, they would gush. But yeah. So now this is a full-on MRI, right? We're looking exactly at your face.
You're looking at a slice. It's not an X-ray like you're seeing all the way through my head. You're just seeing a slice about halfway through my eyeballs.
Okay.
Picture a distance into my head about half the distance of my eyeballs. You're seeing that's the opening there, the orbits for the eye sockets and that.
Yep.
Up into my nose, just past my sinuses, and you can even see the frontal lobes of my brain, and there it is.
Yeah, you know what? Let me go ahead and zoom in on it just a little bit more for people, because they're probably going to be like, zoom in on it, man. So
the only phony photoshopping in this is the circles that I put in to just kind of highlight what's there.
All right.
That wasn't done on the regular MRI. In fact, I think I sent you a copy of the folder of that, and it's like you can look through that slice by slice from several different angles. I believe they got 5 or 10 different angles that they did these MRIs in, and there's just stuff in my head that's just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on here, as a matter of fact, and check out one of these other things. Here you go. Now, where is this looking on your head?
That is at the base of my skull, near the back. At first I thought it might be part of my spine or something. It's something dense because it's white like that. It's not just regular tissue. It's something hard. And it's right at the base of my skull. Back of my head. Now something like that, I was anticipating something smaller and something up around by the left ear. You'll notice that it's kind of reversed. What you think is the right is actually, it says L on one side and R on the other.
Yeah.
So in some of these, you're looking at me from the front, looking back, and it's just a slice at a time. So what you're seeing is towards the back of my head, the back of my skull. On other parts, when you're looking actually from my neck upwards into my skull. I just hit the mic, and it's you're looking upwards, and you'll see the right and the left and stuff. But they're just slices. It's not an X-ray showing all the way through. You're looking at a specific slice of my brain in there.
All right, yeah. So we're looking at you as we would like if you were on camera right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now let's go ahead and hit this and move on a little more here. Now these really
That's
trip me
what
out.
I expected. Yeah, that's what I expected. The little rice thing and the thing. Now that's up behind the left ear. There's some other stuff going in there that's not quite as bright, but these are hard. They're harder than my bone, and denser than my bone, because you'll see that, places where you can see the edges of my skull in that is not as bright as these. So this is something metallic or ceramic or something like that in there, showing up like that.
Right. Now, with Whitley Strieber and many others, like Dr. Roger Lear, who used to, before he died, remove implants from people, a lot of these implants would be like, people would be like, well, doctors especially, how come the body's not rejecting them? Well, there is some sort of synovial sac around these things that the body is just
and
not
they're
doing
wired.
Yeah.
And they're wired to your nervous system as well.
Right. And they broadcast. They actually broadcast and transmit signals, RF, right?
Right. There is RF coming off of those things.
All right. Let's see here. Now, what do you think these
Now,
are?
those I think would be operable. Those I think, are near enough to the surface of my brain and that to actually be dug in. You're still going to have to puncture the skull in some cases and dug out without killing me. But there's some in there, right attached into lower lobes and stuff like that. That's never going to happen. And some of them you'll find deep in the interior. It's like how they got there without killing me or without leaving a scar. It has to be something extra dimensional.
Right.
But you'll notice that they're denser objects than the tissue in my brain. And in some cases, they're even laid out in a pattern across both hemispheres. It's just amazing.
Well, okay, so let's talk about what you feel that they're put in there for. Tracking to assist in the enhancing.
The one you're looking in the center there is probably tracking. I think the one off to my left is probably picking up whatever I'm hearing.
Okay, right on. And yeah, and also I'm going to move on to another one here, and possibly it's going to be the one that these right here.
Right.
Okay, now do you feel, John, that these here are assisting in enhancing your natural abilities, as it were?
I believe they might well be. I had made, now what you're looking at there, if you notice it at the very top, you're still looking through my eyeballs. In fact, there's a couple dark spots there just back behind my eyeball. That's very interesting. There's another one back in the lower right-hand corner. Well, it's actually your left hand as you're looking at it. But I had described, and actually Duncan's described it too before. This is about, like I say, about level with my eyeballs. If you're looking at the pupils of my eyeballs and going straight back into my brain,
okay,
there's like no physical way this is going into my brain or coming back out without killing me. All right, those are something that can only be seen or taken out during an autopsy. All right, because they're so deep. Now, we've talked about generating a killing field. And I've seen antennas set up in arrays like this before. And I wonder, I'm just guessing, but I talked about in one of our shows in one mission where I had gotten captured down near, it was in Mexico, about where Belize and Guatemala all kind of join together, and there's Mexico. There's like 3 different countries that you can just a few steps across the border, and you got a lot of bad guys down there because they can avoid the authorities from just about any country by just a few paces one way or the other,
Right.
practically. And I ended up getting captured down there, and I got chained to like a big metal box spring, and they just kind of done me up with electricity, just over and over again. This went on for days. I'm not sure exactly how long, but I was very dehydrated, very much a mess. I remember just working the metal of the edge of the box spring back and forth with my hands, just tightening up and until it finally fatigued enough to break so I could slip my manacle loose from it and then get my other hand free and my legs and get loose when they weren't paying attention to me. And I saw two guards or part of whatever that group was that had me in the hallway, and I managed to kill them quick. And I did that really fast because I was concerned that I didn't have enough energy to get into any kind of real fight with anybody. Didn't have no weapons. I was barely clothed. And I slipped out, and I managed to, it was like my body was on autopilot, just one foot in front of the other until I got to a pickup zone, and eventually got lifted out of there, and I ended up in the hospital for a little while. And I found out from my teammates that when we used to call them the cleaning ladies, it was the spooks, cleanup squad, whatever.
Right.
They'd come and found where I was, and everybody in the compound was dead, and I had no idea how they got dead. I can't imagine having the strength to have done that. And I kind of wish that happened before they started torturing me rather than after I got loose. I don't know how the hell that worked. Duncan's mentioned such a thing in Cambodia before. And I'm wondering if this little array inside the center of our brains, it covers both hemispheres, you'll see, has something to do with that. You'll also notice up next to the eyeballs, there's some kind of constructs just to the outside of each of those eyeballs. It looks weird. You can see the white of the bone.
Yeah.
It's dense, so therefore the white by the eyeball is the actual bone, the eye socket itself. The bright stuff is dense stuff. The gray and the black is the mushy stuff. That the X-rays or the MRIs is actually resonating through. But you'll see a little structure up on near the cheekbone there on the right and the left, a bunch of little dots together. And there's something going on in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. And I can't imagine how it got in there, what it all does. Does it all still work? Is it contributing to my seizures and my blackouts today? I notice on the blackouts, though, those people that have actually seen me in that mode, it's like I dropped 90 points off my IQ. I got an IQ of 160, so I can afford a little of that. But I'm kind of dumb. It's kind of like I'm not as articulate. I'll looking for a word, have a hard time finding my words. And when I have these blackouts, and it kind of scares me, especially when I was living alone. It's kind of like if I took a shot, is it going to be the right amount? Because I have to give myself shots about 4 or 5 times a day. Am I going to take pills? Am I going to take the right amount? Am I going to do something stupid? That's very scary. And if I'm in that situation and I'm walking about, and for some reason I perceive that somebody might be threatening me, I don't even have to think about how to kill them. It'll just happen naturally. When we do the kind of training we do, the repetition that we do it in puts that all in what you call your reptilian part of your brainstem there, the most primitive part of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You train your body so you don't have to think about it. It's like an instant reflex. In fact, it's kind of an interesting thing because when you get that kind of training in Chinese martial arts, they call you a dragon.
Okay.
They'll refer to you as a dragon.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee's nickname was Siu Lung, which means little dragon.
Hmm.
And like I say, that kind of training all ends up getting stored in that part of your brainstem they call the reptilian area there. So it kind of an interesting point on that.
Right. Yeah, right on. And you know what? I was picking up also, just sitting here looking at it, and it just blindsided me that these are put in there to join the hemispheres of the brain. If they're not joined already. This is enhancing that joining, if you will.
Yeah. It does seem to, there's even two of them right there in the center where the brain splits.
Mm-hmm.
There's also another one. Actually, it's probably, you'll see it from another angle. It's probably one of these that they got dead center. It's like teardrop shaped.
Is it this? Is it this one?
That's an interesting one. Now look there at the front. You see that little BB type thing there,
mm-hmm.
and you'll notice the optic nerves go back and they join right there.
Yeah.
Before they go back, and your sight is actually located in the very bottom, and you'll notice that my right hemisphere is larger than my left. So my second sight, or how I perceive in my sight, is a lot greater than what most people have, especially on the right side. That creative side, so I tend to see more. But yeah, you'll notice we got those two dark spots, and the one is right where the optic nerves join to go back to the back of the brain. Somebody's seeing everything I see. If you look by the left ear, you'll see that white spot again. Somebody's hearing everything I hear.
Mm-hmm.
The center thing in the center is probably one of those white dots that we saw in the array. There's stuff that we're probably not seeing because of the thickness of the slices, but it's like, wow.
I wonder if that's right directly in the middle of the brain there, if that has something to do with your pineal.
Yeah, it's right on that area. It's right on the back of that little cluster there, right in the middle, is that pineal or hypothalamus, and all of that is right there.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
So it is attached to that. There are some cognitive functions that are involved there. Exactly how to use it? Does this stuff still work? Duncan's malfunctioned when he got an MRI. Mine, I think, were malfunctioned far before then because I've been lightning struck. It didn't seem to hurt me much, except knock me off my keister. But it might have done something to these. I've taken massive doses of electricity without a whole lot of effect. But,
yeah, I've been pretty close to being struck by lightning twice as well, and I don't know if this was the second time around. Maybe it was the third time around. But anyway, I was working years ago, a supervisor on the docks at this company in Wisconsin many years ago, and it was Thursday night, and someone managed to go get some beer before the little convenience store closed down the road. So anyway, we're sitting outside, and it's drizzling, raining out there, and it's in the middle of the summer, and right next to the building we worked in was a commercial radio station. And I should say corporate radio station, and all of a sudden I felt my hair standing up everywhere, and next thing you know, because we were sitting on the tailgate of this truck, and this older fellow by the name of Phil, myself, and another friend of ours, younger than I am, well, all of a sudden everything started going staticky, and then pow, from out of nowhere. We didn't know what the hell went on, but I never seen an old dude move so damn fast in my life, John. He was from the back of the tailgate into the front of the truck, freaking out. Well, it turned out that the bolt of lightning came down right next to the radio tower next to us and took it down, turned it into molten metal, really. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Was that a sign from Odin that I'd be doing this years later? Who knows?
It's certainly interesting when it occurs. And like I say, I don't know if things had any effect on these, whatever this is. You can tell like I say, you can see the bone of my skull, you know, and it's bright white. And these are dense objects inside the mushy stuff of my brain. There's no way it got there without somebody poking holes, and it's just not physically. And you'll notice, like, my optic nerves are tied to the one. It's like, how the hell did this happen?
Well, they split your head open dimensionally, I guess.
I guess.
All right, let's go to the next one here. Oh, okay. I guess you're actually talking about
the
these
junction
here.
of the And then you see the one near the left ear there. You know, there's a lot of other interesting stuff in there worth commenting on, but I couldn't tell you what the hell it is. These other ones, I couldn't tell you exactly what they were. I could tell you what I suspect, just because of where they are and what kind of functions there. You know, a lot of your deeper thought happens there, and that your third eye, that's, you know, your pineal and all that, and the junction of the optic nerves. Well, you see them coming back. What else could it be?
Right.
But feeding off of those, or taking a signal off it, even before it goes back to the back of my brain to get interpreted. Somebody's interpreting for themselves what I'm seeing on whatever bands that they see.
And hearing. And it just came to me too, just came in loud and clear that these right here near your left ear, these could very well be the reason for we have these bouts of tinnitus, these frequencies that are coming in or being broadcast, right?
Well, I've been in explosions and close to gunfire a lot before too, so I kind of expected that. But you can see, you know, as I claim to have been a remote viewer and use some of that right hemisphere is noticeably larger than the left. So you can see the development of that sight area is larger on the right than on the left. And I believe that's the aspect of the remote viewing showing up there.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? The muscles we use, hey? All right, let's move on to the next. Now, here we go deep into the brain, and what exactly is, whoops, excuse me, that on the back there?
Have no idea. I'm kind of flabbergasted with that. And then there's that one deep in the brain there too, you know, up in there. Now there's a cavity there. This is in the center. So it's doing something, it's receiving something, it's sending something. I have no idea. Like I said before, if I hadn't seen it for myself, I wouldn't believe it. I showed it to my lawyer. Now, this guy has done thousands of these disability cases, so he's seen a lot of MRIs. It's kind of like, yeah, you just look for the white spots on the brain, and there's where the issues are. And it's like, you see a lot of these, and nobody's dealing with the, and there on the right side, it looks like, you see on the left side, you got this up near towards the front, this big L-shaped thing, and you got one on the right side, but it looks like it's got freaking worms crawling through it. It's like, what the hell is that? Couldn't tell you. But my lawyer found it very interesting. Yeah, you're having seizures? No freaking wonder. Look at all the shit that's in there. Like I said, I was flabbergasted, just absolutely astounded. I've heard lots of other people's ultras, experiencers, and I can relate to them on so many levels. And other stuff I just tend to put on the back burner, because sometimes you see stuff and your brain will interpret it as something else. So you're seeing what you're seeing, even when you're talking to somebody that you know is just stone crazy. He's not entirely crazy. He perceived something. How he took it, how he tried to rationalize it is something else, but it's not for nothing. There's always a good reason. He did see or experience something. And, so I always listen to what they're telling me, even if I do think they might be crazy. And I don't have a lot of people that I really think are all that crazy. A lot of the stuff they describe to me, I've either experienced myself, or I've experienced even fuller, or maybe to a lesser degree. But this stuff here, seeing this hardware in the brain, it's kind of like, yeah, I knew Duncan was chipped all over the place, and I suspected I might have had one or two.
Oh man, I'm sitting here looking at these and I'm just thinking, what the hell do I got in mind? Now,
Yeah, if any of you out there happen to get MRIs done, for God's sake, get your own copy. Make sure you go to the hospital, get the copy. Don't take no excuses. You paid for it, it belongs to you, and there might be something in there you really want to know. And it's kind of like if there isn't any little white spots in there, look at the right and the left half and see how well developed either one is. You might have some of the things, if that right half seems to be developed more so, and you're experiencing dreams and visions and stuff like that you can't describe or can't relate to on a normal human basis without sounding like a nutcase, that might be the reason. And that's not a bad thing. That's perceptions that you've been kind of disconnected to because everybody told you that can't be so, or that's just crazy talk. And it's not.
Well, I can tell you right now, I hear phones dialing out across the planet for people to schedule MRIs with their doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, they should. They should. It's kind of like a lot of people. They say this is a larger population. I've heard some of Linda Moulton Howell's reports, and it seems to be more people than imagined it. And even I didn't imagine it to be to this degree. I remember seeing graves, but to me, I don't remember an everyday thing. I remember only a couple instances. I've talked to Nords before. I wasn't sure that I was talking to anything alien, but they were certainly extremely intelligent and knowledgeable, and had a specific interest in me to discuss some things that I wouldn't hear out of anybody else's mouth. And it's kind of like, okay, that was interesting company, and it was nice to have. It was refreshing, but. To wake up one morning and find out all this stuff is in your head and been there all along. Wow.
Yeah, right. And when we're off air and we have or we have time, I'll tell you a little story that I shared with Lahila and Wynn about when I still lived in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. We're talking Higgville, USA. But hey, you know what? I love the friends I made over there. But the thing is sitting there one day, and it was Memorial Day weekend 2010, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2010. And someone walked in with a dirty bomber jacket. The cotton was all eaten away like it had been, from the 30s, 40s. It was that old. And on the back of it was an old, worn out painting, really, decal or a silkscreen or something of the Knights of Templar emblem on the back of it. Now, when this guy walked in, he was wearing like bell bottoms. He looked like somebody from the freaking 70s who had his corpse reanimated, John. All right. Yeah. And I'll tell you about something. I'll tell you about that later. And I know everyone's going to want to probably hear about that story, and I might share it, but I'll tell it to you off air because I do feel he, whatever this was, reanimated this corpse, or he came down from somewhere, and we had a very lengthy discussion. It was very strange at how everyone fell away from us when we were in the bar, because it's actually happened in a bar, and some very strange things happen, and I'll tell you some other time. But anyway, there's a lot of weird crap going on, folks, and it's just going to get weirder. And on with the slideshow. All right, here we go. Here's another. Is this a posterior view of your
that's
head?
another. Yep. You're looking from like the back towards the front, and there's that teardrop shaped object right in the center, right in the area near the hippocampus and all of that. We're about halfway through my skull, because you can see my ears are a split of my ears on either side. So it kind of gives you an idea of how deep this thing is into my brain. And see how bright it is. Well, you see how bright my skull is. So this is a very dense object, hard as or harder than the bone that's protecting my skull.
I know, and it's giving
just,
this glow. Like, what the hell? I know we're going to get people out there saying that it's your pineal gland, your active pineal gland, or something like that. But then
that's
again,
not as thick as your bone or as dense as your bone. That's all tissue. Like I say, all the hard stuff like blood clots. When you have a stroke and that, it's a little harder, it's a little denser. When it dries out, it's dead tissue or something, but it gets hard, and you notice it. Tumors tend to, because they get dense and they're growing and they're pushing against the healthy tissue, they get denser and they show up a little brighter than the surrounding tissue. Could this be tumors? Well, it's like this. Why didn't my doctor say so? He won't even talk about it.
yeah,
Well, there's this and that, and it's kind of, no, what's this? Well, your hippocampus seems to be in perfect order, and the alimentary canals and all this other kind of stuff, and it's kind of, there's nothing wrong with those, but what's this? And I don't get any answers for those.
right. Of course you don't. And yeah, another. I'm sure we'll get people saying that it's your pineal gland is calcified, but yours is anything but calcified. Yeah. So here we go. Ooh, here we go. We are popping into the.
This is one of my books, Parting the Veil of Worlds. And now this is it's a short story, but it is not a fantasy. It is describing the time that, my kids and my family met Sundog for the first time. And that little fairy-like object that you see there, this picture was taken by Melanie when she was 14 years old on a 35 millimeter Pentax camera. Out in the woods. It was an experiment. Like I say, I do a lot of these on a rather regular basis. We'd go to haunted places and we, do all kinds of things. I'd experiment and find out what's what. This is the kind of stuff that you call high magic. Where you're discovering the whole fabric of the universe and how to manipulate it. It's not the simple stuff of spellcraft, but it has its root in physics or quantum physics. I'm finding quantum physics describes a great deal of what I have found experientially, even since I was a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff I was no stranger to. How it worked in that, I wasn't always aware. It worked very often around me. Part of the strangeness that kind of came with me. I have no idea how it's so. Some of what we saw with those implants might have something to do with some of it. Some of it was being raised as a witch and different teachers. People were, there were people that were telling me stuff was impossible, but they were muggles, and who listens to them anyway? They don't see half of what you see,
right?
And they don't believe it to be true. And it's kind of like, it's true. You don't see air, but you're breathing it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like what do I say all the time? That if they do not see it within themselves, they will not see it in anyone or anything else. Therefore, they will never find the magic.
Yeah, or they can't get it in a test tube and take pictures of it and run samples and get a chemical analysis of it. It doesn't exist. It's kind of like, do we have a soul? And it's like, you are a soul. That is your awareness. That is where all this thought's coming from, not your brain. Your brain can suffer all kinds of damage, but you're still you in there. Now, how you're able to interface with your body. Well, there was a doctor who was a Nobel Prize winner, neurologist or neuroscientist back around 1960, Australian fella, Sir Dr. John Eccles, Eccles, and he said that the brain, his paper described the brain as an interface, kind of like picture it as a keyboard for a ghost to operate.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is your soul, or your spirit. You're going to describe it different ways. Me, I don't get caught up in semantics. That's something warlocks do. They love to change the words and the semantics of a thing and base their argument. Well, this word really means, and it's kind of like, look, it just is what it is. I say this, yeah, 20 years ago it meant that. 20 years later, it means something else. 100 years ago, it meant something else. You know, our big F bomb that everybody hates and is the most impolite thing you can say. 200 years ago, that was a lady's word to describe sexual intercourse in polite company, polite and genteel company.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't get caught up in the semantics of the thing. I studied a lot of ancient books. I had loads of very, very old books. So I'm kind of aware of that. And when I describe these things, just take them in the general terms of what they mean. This here, I used a combination of my chi, my own aura energy, some sunlight, and about a 1.5-inch crystal ball in an area that we already knew to be very unstable. It was a rift area. The plants and stuff, the flora and fauna around the place are strange. You'll see pitcher plants that eat mice and frogs. Big, good size, carnivorous plants, and nothing extremely dangerous. It is at night, but so I mean, it is a strange area to begin with. And these are the areas to explore for rifts and stuff. They will be areas that are a little bit different than the area around them. There's plants and stuff that just don't exist anywhere else. Now, we have a spring near here. We took some pictures of Bradford Springs Hotel, the old ruins and stuff. And we got some orb activity. But there used to be a spring, a healing spring that Indians used to bring, Native Americans used to bring their sick and their wounded to for healing back before this settler bought the place and built a hotel on it and a resort kind of thing. The thing only lasted about 20 years before it got burned to the ground, but it has an interesting history behind it. But there's flora and fauna around that spring that don't exist anywhere else. To me, that says that place is a rift area. This place that you're seeing in the picture, it's not that area, but it's a very similar rift area. For those of you that might live in the Rochester area, this is down by Mendon Ponds by an area called the Devil's Bathtub. And this was done on a summer solstice of, I think, 93, 94, somewhere thereabouts. And I opened this veil, and according to my Druid's wheel, that's when the veil is thinnest to the realm of Gwynedd. That's where it's a higher spiritual realm, where fairies, light beings, where the Sidhe moved to when they left Ireland and England because the humans drove them out. That's where they live, and that's what I opened up. And we expected to see fairies in that. Actually, I was hoping to walk through it and take the kids through, spend an hour or so there. But I managed to get it open. It just kind of blew me away. The energy that came out of this kind of dazed me. It didn't hurt me. It just dazed me. And there was these lights shooting around the forest, and that was the little ones you see caught on the camera there. Mm-hmm. We had the negative analyzed by a photo expert, and he took and he blew it up. The picture of Sundog there, we have a blow up of that. That's taken right off the negative. He scanned that right off the negative.
Guess what? We actually have that one here.
Yeah, it might be the next one, that was scanned right off the negative. And when he described that, now he didn't want to say there was fairies. This is not a Sundog caught on a shutter or anything like that, because you'll see an octagonal shape or a square shape, depending on the shape of the shutter of your camera. It'll be, symmetrical octagon or something like that. This is obviously not an octagon. You're looking at a winged creature. Actually, he's raising something over his head and chasing a smaller red creature.
I can see that. I can see the red, and I can see him actually lifting something up.
Making contact, yeah. And so he described it. He says you have object A, which is so many meters from the camera. That's the little red imp. Object B, which is also so many meters a little bit further. I'm in focus. The camera is focused on me. This is a physical object out of focus because it is a physical object about a meter closer to the camera than me. You can see the light from it is on my pant leg. It's, this is not a Photoshop or anything, odd. It is affecting me. In fact, it's affecting the creature in front of it, because you'll notice its aura took on some of that reddish hue.
Yep.
From the cringing imp. Now, on the winter solstice, I opened a plane into a noon. However, something red like that come up and went into my crystal, burned my fingers, and my crystal blew up.
Oh my God.
Broke into several shards, and I actually burned my fingers. And that was a critter, that little red imp or something like it, from a noon. This particular rift opened up into Gwynedd. And, as you look on Book Ricks and find that story, what you see is an account of what we actually did that day and what we were planning, and what happened. And Sundog kind of shows up still off and on to this day. We kind of became friends. He thought of me then as a big jerk, a wizard definitely, but a jerk, because he was chasing this thing in his own realm, and I opened up the curtain and they ended up here. And I wasn't particularly happy about it. This is not an upgrade from where he lives.
Right. Now, what year was the picture taken?
Around 93, 94, right on the summer solstice.
Okay. And now, what happened to the imp that he was chasing through there? Did he get away? Was he banished back to where he was?
He got away, and he showed up when I opened up the rift that winter solstice,
right,
into a noon, and evidently he made the entry through my crystal, which, like I say, heated up. It actually physically burned my fingers and shattered. I used some of the pieces for a staff that I made for a friend, Tom Steffenhagen. He's passed on now, but it was something to hand down to his family. Lots of gems and stuff in it, and it was like a lightning struck cherry branch, wild cherry, and I filled it full of crystals. And we used to call it the Phoenix Eye crystal, because it had a flaw. If you looked into the center of the crystal, it started out as a dark quartz, but when I cleared it, it became a clear quartz. But if you looked inside, it looked like there was a phoenix rising from a fire. So we called it the Phoenix Eye.
Right on. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, what do we have next? We have, this one right here. This one is really cool. I'm going to zoom in on it here.
That was an experiment that I don't recommend anybody do. I was trying my darndest to manifest my own chi. And basically, I put way too much of it outside of my body to get that glow. And I became very, very vulnerable, and I got very, very sick for some days after that. I mean, deathly sick. Cambodian friend came over and performed some technique he calls Quan Sing. It's as near as I could pronounce it, using a coin and some balm and stuff like that, and dragging it across the meridians of my body. By the time he was done, I looked like I was tiger striped, but I got my health back. I ended up blowing my upper left ventricle in my heart, which healed again about a year later, replaced itself. But it was, I blew it to hell. We saw it on ultrasound. It was just torn to shreds. But that was I had a virulent fever and everything for a couple days after that. But that was me just trying to bring that all. We had just come back. My wife and I had just come back from, we went to a concert at the Eastman Theater. I think it was like the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, or no, it was Cab Calloway. And we just got back. Melanie was in the backyard with the camera, and it's kind of like, okay, let's do this. And I kind of stopped for a while, and I start drawing up energy and pushing my chi out through my hands, and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pumping more into it. And I got very, very intense about this. I figured I'm getting ready to go to bed anyway, so if it tires me out, no big deal. It was a big deal.
Oh, but yeah. It tired you out, yeah.
We do experiments, and sometimes those experiments kind of hurt you.
Right, exactly. You know what? Just going back a couple of pictures really quick. Where is it do you feel that our soul actually resides in the body? Is it sitting up physically in the head?
No, it's not in the head. Solomon said that the spirit of a man is the candle of the Lord. It lighteth the innermost parts of the body. It tends to center itself when it's at rest in your 10-10. It's an area into the core of your body, about a couple inches below your navel. That's where it rests at. Now it moves up. Now there's a trick that I do. Well, it's not really a trick, but I do it with a lot of my students. We'll get into a square horse stance, and your feet are parallel to your hips, about shoulders width apart, sometimes a little more than what you are, but they're in a straight line, okay? And from the front, we'll try to push you over. Now, normally, if your chi is just doing its normal thing, you're easy to push over because you're not really braced against something coming at you straight from the front or straight from the rear. See, you'd be easy to push over unless you move your feet. All right. But if you keep your feet planted in that square horse. Now, if your chi centers down into your 10-10 and you try to push over, it's like trying to push over a mountain. It don't happen because your center of gravity tends to drop with it. Now, sometimes I get students to say, I got it. And it's like, you can't push me over. I can hold back the master, in which I'd come up and I'd touch my finger with my chi drawn at their 10-10 and run it up their body towards their chest, and they go over like a cinch. Because I just raised their chi while they were trying to center it. I brought it back up, pushed them over. They're top heavy, and over they go. But that's where it tends to reside.
Okay.
But like I say, it permeates your whole body. Your aura extends even beyond your body. And sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the state of mind or spirit that you're in. When we talk about the spirit of a thing, we're talking about the basic inclination of the thing. Some people are basically aggressive. Some people are basically passive. That's their spirit. When we talk about the spirit of a thing, we're talking about the heart of a matter. Something, what it's like at its core. We're not talking great details, just very basic. You're tall, you're short, you're thin, you're fat. Those are very, very basic things. It's not an in-depth description of who you are. It's just, general shape or something like that. It's kind of the same with your spirit. And as it's more active and radiant, it radiates outwards. It radiates different colors depending on what you're up to. And won't you bring it? I can't answer it yet. And that's how it extends.
Right. Cool. And now, is that an important call?
I don't know. Let me grab it really quick here. If you can pause.
Yeah, sure.
Hello? Go on.
Okay. Well, maybe they're just letting you know that they're hanging around, because on my end right now, you go into a spacey type echo every so often, and I'm going to do my best to get clicks and pops out of there that are coming in with it as well. It's almost like there is something tuned into this show right now from somewhere else, is what I'm picking up, and not
doubt it.
Not sitting on this planet, not on this planet like you and I are right now. Yeah. So
maybe up messing with the satellite we're talking through.
Yeah. Who knows, man? But I did call in protection for everything. So hopefully that it seems to be holding. So, all right. Now, what's that?
Hold on a second. I got to get rid of this thing.
Okay. No worries.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
All right, welcome back. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this in the in the audio, man, because this is live as it's happening. So.
Okay. Oh, look, we got the orbs.
Yeah. Now let me zoom in on these while you say a little something about this pic.
All right. There's a lot of people whose main theory are a lot of skeptics, and I'm not knocking skeptics. Having somewhat of a skeptical nature is actually a good thing. They're not overly gullible, but there's a big difference between explaining the uninvestigated. Well, it could be this, or it could be a Photoshop, or it could be, it's kind of like you weren't there, you didn't check. It's kind of like if that's what you believe, you're as bad as the gullible people that believe absolutely anything. So there's a big difference between explaining the uninvestigated and investigating the unexplained. So some people's theory are that a lot of these orbs are bugs in flight, not caught quite by the camera. And we got a couple orbs there. And we got a bug caught in flight just in front of that tree. And it's not an orb. So the orbs are the orbs and not a bug caught in flight. There's a good camera or picture that illustrates that. That was taken by a digital camera that we had set up. This was taken at Oak Tree Sanctuary. We used to camp there a lot and help out there a lot on the farm. She'd get a lot of wounded animals and stuff like that she'd take care of and release in the wild. We got about 70 acres of woods, and well, it extends long beyond that even. But we were trying to get people that were hurting the animals. So the animal in front of this happens to be Palomino named Cloud. But there's some orb activity and a bug in flight. So
okay, yeah, because
not bugs.
yeah, Law and I were trying to figure out what that was in the picture. There, a horse's neck. She goes, "It looks like a horse's neck," and I said, "No, it's somebody's hairy butt." No, but anyway,
yeah, actually, that's the back of his neck and his mane.
Okay, and his head's coming down. Look at this. Yeah, you can tell.
Trooping fairies, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if they were bugs or dust motes, how do you get them to line up like that?
Right, exactly. Look at that. And now
actually, I know how.
Yeah, you could. Well, hang on. You can tell that this is 35 millimeter camera because I have pictures upon pictures of me capturing the orbs like this all the time before any digital software came out to where you could manipulate stuff. This is there's something about the flash that that illuminates the infrared spectrum that makes these things visible. Yeah. There's
a lot there, and those fairies are trooping, and they are looking for interlopers. This is their wild hunt, and their reward is they get to do anything they want with whomever they catch that doesn't belong on this property. They'll not mess with us. They'll not mess with the animals. In fact, they're very, very upset. I wish I had some footage of they'd gone and poisoned Rachel, who was a little filly, and she was very friendly, and she'd come to you, and if people came to the fence or something and offered her an apple or something, she'd come and take it from their hand. She was very trusting, and she ended up with something that was poisoned. Some people were kind of harassing Carol and them out at the sanctuary there. She's a witch. She's got a big wooden statue of Gaia out front. She's pagan and proud and a good person. So we, summoned up a wild hunt to help us because we couldn't keep up with these things ourselves. We tried. We'd patrol. We'd get up every couple hours or hour or so and patrol the perimeters, the fence line and everything like that to check for people, but not always find or see anyone. So I made some stone wards to make some certain boundaries. And then I called up a wild hunt, and I called actually additional fairies and the ones that just lived there to come and take part in this hunt. And it kind of went on for most of the season. And they did find some interlopers and drove them nuts and crazy. And, they went home with extra baggage. And next thing you know, they end up in the hospital. I guess they injured themselves.
Oh, wow. So what did you hear about how they kind of were driven mad, these interloper trespassers?
Actually, we heard it from the distance. They lived about, less than a mile away from they just lived down the road a ways. And we could hear them partying that night. They had the music up loud. You could hear it even way, like I said, we're just under a mile away. little more than a half a mile, somewhere maybe about 3/4 of a mile down the road. And you could hear the music because it's generally quiet except for the tree frogs and the crickets, at night. And, you can hear them, and you can hear them wahoo. We were calling them the Wahoo Brothers. I don't know what their names really were, but, it's like they're partying, howling, and just having a nutty old time there for a while. And then the screams start getting like terrifying, it wasn't no more wahoo, great time, like that. It wasn't like that anymore. It was shrieks and that sounding like terror. And then about 20 minutes later, we can hear the ambulance and see the red flashing light coming up the road a ways and stopping off. The ambulance stops over at the house there, and it was quiet the whole summer after. Took somebody away somehow, but it was quiet. And
that's interesting.
That's what we wanted. They weren't messing with us or the animals anymore.
Wow.
Called in the fairies,
Wahoo, and then starts screaming.
A period of time where a certain influence or influences is brought to bear to accomplish a desired goal.
Right.
In this case, the desired goal was to get the interlopers that were harassing and poisoning and injuring the animals for funsies.
Yeah, right. Well, they got their just desserts, didn't they?
Yeah, fairies had a grand old time with them too.
All right.
There's a picture of now. I did another story called the Demons Debacle, and this is where I worked at Kodak Park in Building 605. And Sundog come down. This place is huge. At one time, it was the biggest warehouse in the world. Now there is actually something bigger. But for a long period of time, it was the largest warehouse in the world. And this is where we worked. This was, we had assembly lines. This is at night at quitting time. And Sundog is passing from one part of the warehouse into our section and straight on through. And everybody kind of saw this ball of light. Now, a lot of times people would see that ball of light associated with me and think, well, it's a little trick of the eyes or something. They don't think much of it. But this time he just kind of cruised through fairly slowly. And I whipped out the camera and snapped the picture. He hates it when I do that. But he was making his presence known. There was some things going on. One of the supervisors who didn't like me had gone and said we had a lot of temp workers there, and some of them were Muslim, and he was kind of spreading it around that I was treating or calling them or dealing with them as if they were terrorists. And these were some pretty decent folks, and they had every right to be offended. But it really wasn't my doing. And Sundog showing up and hanging around with me where they could see him. Well, they called him a blue djinn. And that was their name for him. And anybody that could command a blue djinn, well, put it this way. If you think you're going to some place that has 72 virgins and live untouched, this critter can get you there. So, it's like anybody that could command one of these, and I don't command Sundog, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he is a friend, like a close personal friend. And, he did this on his own. I didn't ask for this. This wasn't my doing. He saw the problem and he intervened. And this was his intervention. And I finally got somebody come up to talk to me about what was going on. I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And he said that he saw the blue djinn hanging with me, and that anybody that had that kind of influence had to be a man of a particular kind of character. And I couldn't be the man that I was being made out to be. So Sundog actually saved my life.
Right on. And he's also popped in one of the shows that you and I did together.
A number of times, yeah.
But
he's shown up.
Yeah, now you can tell this is taken on film camera, right? This is film. And then there's one.
Actually, they gave me the film right there in Kodak. Sometimes when you do something unusual or really great, they give you a gift of some film or a camera or something like that, and we were doing some rather unusual things rather regularly there.
Mm-hmm. Now that's physically there. It is there.
Yeah, they're watching it. They're watching it go by. So everybody's
Wow.
kind of checking them out.
Yeah. Now it looks like there's one
It's
down
kind
here
of like,
too.
what the hell is that, as far as they're concerned? But
Right.
yes, more orb activity. But the brighter one is Sundog. He's kind of a higher order of those deals.
Well, let's see here. I think the next one just might be Sundog himself, alive and in living color. Nope. Okay, he's coming up. So we have.
Well, there I am walking down a trail. Actually, you see the staff is awesome wisdom.
Yep.
But I have a freaking parade of orbs following me. This trail, when I was about 12 years old, I did my first wild hunt. That means that I put out a food and a drink offering, blew a horn, gave a whistle, whatever you like to get their attention, and state that if you want to do a wild hunt and I'll participate, I'll be the hunted. That you can take this food and this drink offering, and then I'll come so many nights hence. Usually, I pick a full moon because it's dark in those trees at night. We go in starkers, naked as a jaybird. No weapons, no anything. This is not a wild hunt being done now. But the area that I ran I become the master of the hunt for that area for my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And this area kind of overlaps a little bit. If you Google the White Lady of Durand Eastman Park, her domain overlaps me a little bit to the east of me. So this is my haunt, and part of it's her haunt, but we're the protectors of that area. So when I go in, I get an entourage, spiritual critters. You ever wonder what the guardian angel of a chipmunk looked like? Well, that's about what you're dealing with there.
Okay. Yeah, this is really neat. Let's see if I can pick them out here. We got an orb there, couple here, and we got one here. Yeah, they're following you like lost little puppy dogs, eh?
Yep. That's my entourage. I'm the master of the wild hunt. They chased me that night. Now here, this is where we call Kedron. You'll hear Melanie mention it. This is where my kids kind of grew up and got trained in woodcraft and martial arts and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And on my birthday, on the eve of Lunasa, every year, I come. Now this stream flows northward towards Lake Ontario through these woods. And I brought awesome wisdom with me, and I asked for permission to make a crossing. There was a rift or something that was open that this critter opened for me. He was the guardian of it. And when I got across, I was no longer, as they say in Kansas, or in this case, Rochester or Irondequoit, New York. I was in Gwinnett, and I'd attend what we call summer court, where a great number of different types of spiritual beings and stuff congregate for court. And we discuss, well, in my case, because it's my birthday, it's my new year. We discuss what happened the last year, the places I goofed up, the places I did well in, the things we want to improve for the next year, or the things I want to focus on. And because I belong, you say you're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. This is me being such a child at Danu. I belong. I serve a purpose. I'm part of the family. I relate with all of it because we are all related and all family. And that's me just about to make that crossing. And generally everybody knows in my family or related or hangs around my family. On my birthday, I cannot be found, no matter what you try, because I'm not in this world for a good part of the day. I usually come back in the evening and we'll have maybe a little, I don't like cake. We'll have pie and ice cream or something. And, not a big birthday celebration. My birthday gets spent in court. Not a bad court either. It's rather a beautiful court.
Well, explain to folks what takes place, really.
Well, in fairy lore, they have like the Seelie and the Unseelie courts, but that's in a certain area, more closer to where you're at. but there's courts here. There's domains everywhere across the earth. The Native Americans relate to them in certain ways. And in this particular area and domain, this is kind of where I grew up. Even as a boy, I ran my first wild hunt, where my children grew up and played in this stream. My grandsons played in this stream when they were little. There's white clay a little further on. We practice our wood lore, our craft. But in the court, it's like a fairy court. Mother Danu, Mother Nature, presides. The White Lady of Duran, her domain is, well, it kind of this borders what's on my left hand or the right side of the picture. Part of her domain kind of borders this. And when I was younger, if she was in the court, she does not like human males. If you read the legends about her, you Google it and that, you're going to find out that generally she deals with guys that are somewhat predators. Well, I'm not a predator. I'm the guardian of this area. And it took a few years before that settled in. She didn't like males. So I couldn't attend court while she was in there. I had to wait just somewhere outside of that until I was summoned. When she left, I could come in. Now, as of the time this picture was taken, and actually about a decade or so before then, I became well known as the guardian of my area, and a good guardian and a good man, and she don't have no problem with me no more. She can manifest, and I'm not in trouble. I'm not in danger. She doesn't hate me. She accepts me. It takes years sometimes to build up a relationship with some of these kinds of spirits. That's why that unbroken will and word are important. Mm-hmm. They know when you say, or your inclination, even your spiritual inclination, your will is strong, that you're going to be this kind of man. I made a pact. I'm not going to hunt as long as I could pick up my chicken or my beef or something at the grocery store. I wasn't going to harass the wildlife for anything. I was going to be their protector. And having said so and done so, I could sit down in these woods and sit around a herd of deer, or the foxes would come and play around me, and the raccoons, and they treat me as if I was, well, I am a part of the ecosystem there. Mm-hmm. So that court would be, you'd see a lot of these critters, but in Gwynedd you see them more than just orbs. Some of them are a bit anthropomorphic, and some of them don't look like anything remotely human. Dryads are spirits that dwell in some of these trees, not every tree. They often show up too. These little ones like Sundog, oftentimes called pixies, but when you get on the other side, the sucker's standing about 7 to 9 feet tall. and looks very intimidating, not so cutesy anymore. But we all interrelate. We all have our relationship. There's certain rules that kind of bind us. There's a rule that I never subscribe to, that they call the Pact of Silence, which means that if you don't know anything about these critters, you're not supposed to know. But that's part of the warlock paradigm. I don't have nothing to do with that. So basically, you're not supposed to take pictures. You're not supposed to expose their existence to other people. Sundog gets very upset with that. Less so these days than he used to. But he would oftentimes do things when I publish his picture and zap my printer, or electrical things around the house would just kind of go on the fritz for no apparent reason. Or you'd see this blue spark fly into him, and then it wouldn't work anymore. And that was Sundog paying me back for something. And that's kind of a lot of how that goes. That's part of that's a deep part of a lot of witches' life, especially those tied to nature that much.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about how the printer, he messed with your printer and turned the heads around or something on the inside? You brought it up once.
I had, this was back in the early 90s, just when we first met Sundog, and we got that picture and we posted that, and I uploaded it to my local bulletin board and basically told my friends on the Paranormal Network that it was there, and people were calling our bulletin board from all over the world to upload this picture. So it is out and around. Has been since then. And Sundog was very, very upset about this. So I had bought this brand new Panasonic printer, 24 pin, back at the time that was like state of the art. It's kind of humorous to speak about now. And I had a friend over, well, he's passed on. His name was Steve Tansky. He was a Wiccan. And I had about 5 or 6 pages of some stuff to print out for him. And I printed it out. And we were getting towards the last page, and this little blue spark comes flying through the house, goes right into the printer, and it stops. And it's kind of like, okay, I didn't even have the thing a week. So I took it back to the place that I bought it from. It was called Herc something. It was on West Ridge Road at the time. And I took it back to them, and he says, wow, it's, they checked the bottom because all of the screws have different colored Loctite on them, like a little paint. So if you actually opened up the machine, you would crack the Loctite, and they'd know that the machine was tampered with. And all of those were intact as they should be. And he says, it's amazing this printer even got shipped out. And I says, why is that? He says, well, they're supposed to test it first. And this obviously wasn't tested. I says, well, what makes you say that? Because I knew I printed out about 6 pages before it fritzed. He says, well, when they put this together, for some odd reason, now there's like a couple slides and stuff in there that the print head would go back and forth on, and the little pins would strike through the carbon tape to, make the image on your paper. And he says they put the print head slide upside down so that the part where the pins go is facing upwards instead of the paper. So somehow or another, something got into the printer closed and managed to flip this thing around entirely, like dismantle it and put it back together upside down.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Right. It's like physically impossible to do. And naturally, as far as the tech was concerned, this never should have left the factory because they put it together wrong. This was not tampered with. It was just faulty, defective, and put together in a really weird way. So that's the way they kind of explain it. Hey, I got a new printer anyway, and Sundog got his point across that he didn't like that. So I was kind of careful about that for a while.
Yeah, let me move forward here really quick. Here we go, folks. This is Sundog. Now, people are going to be out there, oh, that's a flashlight. Well, that's not a flashlight, guys. That's at all, is it?
No, it's him. I caught him. Actually, I just bought a webcam, and it was sitting up on top of the monitor, and he was not aware of it. What it was, what it did, and I had the damn thing running, and I managed to get him like several times over with this thing, and of course he got me back. There's a light with a fan on it above. He did a little thing there, and the wires got turned around. My son-in-law came over and rewired it, and he says, you put it together backwards. I says, hey, it was running yesterday, and it was running the last time you came here, if you remember. And so it's kind of like it was Sundog, and he does that. And Sundog is the name that we know him by. It's not his real name. Those names are secret. We all have secret names. Even I have a secret name. It used to be a tradition among the Irish in particular, when a child was born, the matriarch or the patriarch would whisper his secret name. This kind of describes you spiritually, who you're going to be at your core, into your ear. And then usually around the age that you can be responsible, they'd tell you what that name was. And you could share that with like very close friends. But it's not something you want enemies to know, because by knowing your nature, they also know how to handle you.
Mm-hmm.
So we always called him Sundog. That was what the family knows him by.
Well, he is glowing an exceptional color of blue, literally. I mean, you can see him lighting up your face, for crying out loud. He's there.
Yeah. Yep. And the kids, back when we first met him, would find him. He would go buzzing into the house before I got home from work, and that's how they knew Daddy was near.
Right.
So they start behaving a little bit more.
That's cool.
Kids.
How long did it take for you to basically build a relationship with him, though?
It kind of started on the spot. It wasn't particularly nice. He thought I was a jerk for opening that up, and it's kind of like, well, it wasn't a mistake, and I had to learn. And I don't subscribe to the Pact of Silence, so I'm really not breaking anything. I am the witch that I am. I do keep my word. My will and word are pretty straight. So over time, it's kind of like, yeah, now he's got a link to this area because I did that, which means sometimes, like I pop into elsewhere, going through rifts when I'm going along. Sometimes that happens to him and Gwinnett, and he ends up here more often than not.
Right.
As a result of my meddling. And now he's kind of like, okay, it's not so bad. I can always get back. I'm not here for long. I'm not such a bad person. I'm pretty good as wizards go or witches go. So over time we just kind of you call it familiar spirit.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
People attribute a lot of demonic things to that, but Sundog's always on the outside, not in me. They do communicate. You clear your mind, and when there's these critters or parents around, they're present. A lot of these orbs. If you clear your mind, you still it like a pond. A lot of times in my mind, I will imagine that I'm standing in a pond, almost up to my eyeballs, and just looking across the surface, and it's still, and my breathing is slow, and I'm not making any ripples. And as I do that, sometimes you'll have images of things happening and stuff going through your mind that are not yours. That's them trying to talk to you. That's how they talk.
Okay.
And so, if you happen to be a medium or sensitive to this, a lot of times you'll pick up different emotions and stuff that aren't yours.
Yep.
And that's them.
And cravings for cigarettes
Sometimes
or gack.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes cravings for things you don't even like.
Right, exactly. Like pickles and ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this pick right here, you're bringing up, you're declaring a war. Can you talk more about this? Yeah.
This was on a Mother's Day, and I had done my morning devotional to Mother, being Mother Danu for me, and I had these goat skulls. This is a farm, and critters kind of come and go, and I took their skulls. I didn't take them from the living animal, but I painted the worshipers of Baphomet are very fond of this. So I needed a link to the warlocks. On each of the skull, you can't see it so well. And on one is painted an upside down pyramid with the eye with a slash through it. If you want to break their power, take their emblems and turn them upside down, defile them, put them in some kind of mockery type thing, put a slash through them or an X through them, and that's what's on each of these. There's an upside down pentagram on one, and it's got a circle with a red line through it. There's different illuminist symbols. So I put those on the goat skulls, and I sprinkled out some salt, and I got my crystals there. You can see, and I'm also wearing a sword. I'm dressed for war. And I'm declaring, I'm binding their power and declaring that I'm hitting back. And if you know me since that picture was taken, I've been hitting back hard every freaking chance I get.
Right on, brother. Now, where did my mouse go? Come here. All right.
All right.
Yeah, check this out. Now, what is going on here?
That was where I was actually start generating power into it. My will and my word and everything was kind of focused, and I have my athame in my hand, and it was just a little short knife. It wasn't a very long one, but I was focusing that, just kind of, this is what I think of you. This is, it's like throwing down the gauntlet. That's probably the best description for what I was doing right there.
Okay.
Throwing down the gauntlet for this witch war.
Well,
And
what kind of
that
things?
was the result of it as far as the camera was concerned.
Okay, now what kind of things have happened and taken place since you declared this war? Aside from your health deteriorating.
Well, yeah, that definitely start going really bad around this time too. It definitely took a turn for the worse. But in the ways that I kept hitting back, uh, I've actually been making some headway through some things. People have actually been waking up. It's like I talk to them now, and all of a sudden the little light goes on, and they go, "Oh, that's what you meant." And every time you do that, every time that happens, that's more power taken away from them. Once you become aware of the spells being cast on you and being manipulated, it becomes harder, if not impossible, to manipulate you anymore. So more and more people are actually getting broken free of these particular chains. I keep hoping to reach a tipping point where enough people are awake and aware where these people's power becomes less than negligible. These people want to hide their face in the world instead of try to strut through it in their freaking limos.
Right, exactly. Now, I gotta let folks know also before I forget, folks, where John has taken the pentagram and basically turned it into a pentacle, where you have the head, the arms, the legs, and everything straight up and down rather than upside down. The elites, the warlocks really have done the same thing with ancient symbols that appear on products today, and the hippie movement, if you will, from the 60s, the peace sign is actually the Gaelic Norwegian Algiz turned upside down. It's actually meant to resemble protection and or the tree of life. Okay, folks.
When you display Algiz upside down, or you're drawing the rune and it's upside down, right side up it means protection. Upside down it means the need for protection. And so I thought in some ways, as a peace symbol, considering that the world was full of war, that there was a need for protection.
Indeed. Yeah. we got Algizes all over the house, as a matter of fact, hand created. Yeah, but it's just like you're sitting there, and over here in the UK, they have a body soap that they put out called Peace, and it's just like I hate using it anymore because I know exactly what it means. This emblem that they put on it, it's crazy. And if people really take a look at some of the symbols that are created and start looking into why they're created, they're going to start digging. They're going to go down the rabbit hole, and they are going to find out just how much of a lie everything is from birth here on this planet. This planet, her nature is not evil in any way, shape, or form.
No,
it's the people.
She's here to nurture us.
Right. It's the people, the usurpers.
Looking like they're going to go to the moon or Mars, and it's like Luna's not going to nurture Gaia's brats. You're not going to destroy this place and go somewhere else and expect to be welcome. It's like the universe, the whole universe. This is a sentient planet. Actually, almost all of them are. And the stars, they have their own mindset, their own Schumann resonance and everything, their own auras. And the universe is in communication with all of it. This is why they keep telling you to, the best mystics and shamans become one with the universe. They understand their place in it. It's like a big mandala. It's like a big pattern of lights and colors and movement and that happening. And we're all a part of it. The problem is we've been disconnected from it for generations, and it was done on purpose by people who want our power for themselves here and now. And this is only a tiny part of the universe that we are actually children of, that we have access to, and that we're intended to grow in and evolve into. In the Bible, in the book of Psalms, it says, I said, ye are gods, little g. It's kind of like, all right, you are children of two parents. You are a children of Danu, a child of Danu. You have elements of your mother. Everything in your body, your physical body, breaks down into dirt. Normal, dirt. There are some elements in there that are actually celestial, that come from space and aspects of space. But your spirit comes from, as Enoch put it, the father of all spirits, the one we call the creator. It's a tiny little chunk of his own consciousness, but given to you. That's your gift. People keep talking about God's free gift, or Christian, God's free gift to you is salvation. It's like that salvation is, you are in an evolving consciousness. It is your own to do with what you will. However, you have a certain responsibility as any child. There's certain things you don't do. Don't play with matches and set the sofa on fire. It's a bad thing. Are you going to go to hell for it? I think it's going to be bad enough what happens to you for doing it. You can do it. You do, but you shouldn't. There's reasons why you should. But evolving, you learn why. You learn what, not just what, but why. Good and evil is not a list of do's and don'ts. It's a list of reasons or explanations or cause and effect. If you do this, it affects that in that way. Is it a good thing? Well, that won't like it at all. And you're creating this disharmony and this discord isn't going to have a good effect on your environment around you. And you're a part of that environment, so you're affecting yourself even. When you evolve and you start learning this and how you relate to all of this, you become a better person all the way around, and you just keep growing, and your consciousness keeps expanding, and more of this starts opening up to you. You start learning there's more than just the chipmunks. There's these other critters out there, and some of them are quite intelligent, and whether they like you or not, it depends entirely upon what you're projecting. And that comes from the inside out. That's your spirit, that unbroken will and word. You direct that, you radiate that, and these creatures hear it from miles away.
Oh, I bet. I've heard a lot of people hear things miles away with me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have about 7 more pictures left, I think, and we're just going to go right on ahead. You know what? This is fun. We got to do this again, and if people, would like to leave the comments down in the comments section as to, they would like to see more of this, and John, dig up as many pictures as you can. And we can do another couple of these if you'd like, because I think this is pretty damn neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I got hundreds just on my Facebook alone. Oh, this is Mel quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's now in her 30s. She was about 14 years old. This was about the same time she took that picture. Well, not the same day, but these were a lot of the weapons that we had to work out with. You'll see that big broadsword that was called our spirit sword, and that big, that's awesome. From the staff, awesome wisdom. You can see that's got quite a reach on it.
Oh yeah.
Melanie's wearing a camouflage ninja gi. They all learned. They were my ninja turtles. From the time they were babes and toddlers. They had little maple dowels wrapped in foam as nunchucks. They had their bokens, little oaken swords, had their names painted on the handles and done up really fancy and individual-like. So they had their, and they learned to be responsible with that before they were allowed to use anything like the real swords that we have there. Melanie's first real martial arts weapon. Well, the boken is a real weapon and the staff is a real weapon.
Right.
But we're talking about an edged weapon, was a steel-ribbed war fan. The steel ribs would be sharpened, and this thing was like silk. You just snap it out, and you could fight somebody that had a sword with it, or slash somebody's throat. Or that was her first real. When she got responsible enough to have her own. They all had pocket knives at one point. There's a little training thing that they used to do in the Boy Scout manual. They call it a totemship test. And before my kids were allowed to carry a little folding knife, they had to pass the Boy Scout test for taking care of it, sharpening it, being able to use it without cutting yourself. And actually, you can see one of my shurikens in there too, in that stump.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
It's a large one. Yeah, that's one of the ones I used to use out in the field. Those things are like killer. You sink that into somebody's skull, they ain't getting back up. Some of the little ones are more for harassing somebody, but that big one there is for definitely taking them out.
Yeah, and I really hope Melanie doesn't get mad for me showing this picture. I love you, Mel. Really, I do.
Yeah, it's not her favorite picture. She didn't like well, she was having her own issue. She was only 14 years old. You know how teenagers get.
Yeah.
Actually,
And,
I'm quite proud of her.
yeah, that is cool. And you know what? She is an awesome woman today, John. You did right by her. You really did. And I got to tell you really quick, and I've told you before, but for everybody else out there, the first martial arts weapon that I really got into using. And I got to throw this shout out to my brother Jade Woodhouse. He's an old high school buddy of mine who was into gymnastics and taekwondo, kukando, lima lama, apparently the circling of hands. And he reminded me of Bruce Lee. He really did. And anyway, he had these telescoping stainless steel nunchaku, and I learned really fast how not to hit myself in the head, but I hit myself in the head quite a bit. Him and his girlfriend, it would be in front of his house, out in the front yard. I'd be practicing, and they would keep me awake because I just want to go to sleep. They're like, "No, you got a concussion. You will stay awake." So they come and jump on me on the couch, and
yeah. If you want to learn how to swear really eloquently, take up the 3-section staff.
Oh, yeah, I played around them.
Smack you across your shins and your head at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We've been working with those two.
Yeah.
But next up, I think we've got your son John in here as well. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah, that's when he was younger. We're out in the woods in one of our favorite trees. They say they were all studying since they were little. In fact, when he was like 8 years old, I think he's a little older than 8 in this picture. Like I say, I've been doing this for ages. I've been doing martial arts for over 50 years now. And I think I was in my 30s. I think I was in my 40s maybe when we took this picture.
Okay.
But when he was 8 years old, we actually did a stunt where we had a bed of nails that we used to use when I used to do exhibitions. Now, for me, we'd load it up with some concrete bricks and stuff, and then pour some lighter fluid on it and light them, and then have a guy come over and bust them on my stomach with a sledgehammer, or have somebody stand on my stomach while I was laying on the bed of nails. Jonathan is the youngest that I've ever known to have a brick broken over his stomach with a hammer. Not a sledgehammer, it was just a regular hammer, but it's nonetheless, it took some very hard training. You have to learn to relax across the nails. They're very sharp. It's no joke. They do hurt. But the idea is you get as much skin as possible across them. The pounds per square inch, the more nails that you're in contact with, the pounds per square inch becomes less so that they won't pierce you. So you have to relax your back. It hurts, but you have to realize because I'm doing this cannot physically harm me. There's pain, but there's no physical harm. So you have to learn that little mind over matter. Now, to take a shot to the stomach or to break a brick across your stomach with anything, you have to make your stomach hard, like you did with your buddies and stuff. Yeah, punch me in the gut. Give me your best shot.
Right.
You tighten up your stomach. But if you tighten up your back while you're doing it, your skin is going to go thin and those nails are going to slice you to pieces on the other side. So your back has to remain soft and pliant, and your stomach has to be hard. So it takes a lot of discipline. You have to put the pain out of your head and focus on what you're doing. And John did this at 8 years old. I've seen people in their early 20s actually get pinned to the freaking bed. So it was quite an accomplishment. But these kids were raised in it literally from the cradle.
That is awesome. Hey, do you want to adopt another one? I'm kidding, kind of, sort of. Anyway, all right, what do we got next? Oh, all right, so we now find you where you're currently dwelling up there in New Hampshire.
Yeah. And notice I don't look like I did in that other picture.
Yeah.
And to all you folks out there that sent me the supplements and stuff like that actually reversed my ketoacidosis. This is what you did. This is what your love and your caring. It was not for nothing. It was not for nothing. This is what you physically accomplished. And I live another year, and I'm not in entirely very bad shape there.
No, and here we go. You just made this the zip line for your grandsons, right?
Oh yeah, yep. We're gonna also hang a heavy bag on that later. I gotta get one. The neat thing about heavy bag training on this is because it'll bob and it'll weave, and you hit it back toward, whichever direction you hit it in, it's always going to come back at you, and not always in a straight line.
Right.
So you learn how to hit full contact and powerfully, and you gauge how powerfully by how far this thing travels on the zip line. When you nail it, a moving object or a moving opponent, a lot of boxers will work out on a heavy bag. Hey, hold this for me. And it's like, look, nobody's going to stand there and take that abuse. You have to be able to get this sucker on the run while he's moving and land something square and hard, something to send him flying. But they also work on their ninja skills, learning to use the zip line, climb the ropes, and all that other kind of stuff. And we make a big game out of it. If I made it too hard, they wouldn't want to do it. And as long as it's a game, I raised my own kids that way. For a long time, they didn't even know they were having martial arts training. They were just playing Ninja Turtles.
Hey, there you go. Oh, here's another one where you're it's further out. How many acres are you on out there?
I think the property itself is about 25 acres, but back in there, it just opens into a national forest.
Right on. God, this is...
In fact, if you went straight past my back through the woods in a straight line for a couple miles, we'd end up by that Bradford Springs, about where I took those pictures of the orbs in the old hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have pictures of that old hotel where you guys ripped it, and that house as well, where you ripped it, and you could see it on one side, but you couldn't see it on the other?
Actually, I do have photos of it. Obviously not the photos of the other side, but it had changed since 1994.
Okay.
And Elvira either died or just no longer lives there, or something. She seemed to be an intrinsic part of the extra-dimensional nature of that house. But the house is there. You can see it from both sides now. I don't know quite how that ever worked, but I used to bring all my friends and my family and everybody up there to see that, and then defy them to find it on the other side. Walk around to the street and walk down the street, and there's nothing like it.
Right. I would like to see some of those, as a matter of fact, and put them in the next slideshow. But
all right, I got some of those. Yeah, because I took some for the book to kind of illustrate, because I talk about those in Matriarch of the Witch Clan and Warrior of the Witch Clan, because the books are a fantasy in how the story is put together. But as you look at the individual chapters, the characters, they're all real people. And they're all a lot of real things that we've done. The way that they're all kind of tied in together to make one cohesive story, that's the fantasy. But I wanted to give a good indication. How is a Danaan witch raised? What's it like growing up in a witch clan? People would ask me about that, or it must have been amazing, and it must have been this or that. So I did those books to give you an idea of what it was like. Most people didn't know my grandma or my great grandma were witches. Family does, but most outsiders don't. And when you say that, they automatically think of something ugly and satanic, and that's really not what I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my best to illustrate that, what that was like in those books. And those books are also available free on BookRix.
Yeah, I spoke to you also a day or two ago about the books, because I've got them all in. What I'd like to do is get them uploaded, so and post a link down below this show, so people can actually download the entire file with all of your books in there, if that's cool with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, they're EPUB files now, which can be read on with Adobe Digital Reader. It can be read on Kindles easily enough. I think you can convert them to you can convert them to a PDF. I think in Adobe Regular would read it, but Adobe Digital would read it fine.
Yep.
And you can print them out, and especially in the case of practical witchery, you know, if you want to print out a book of shadows or have that as a part, get it, print it out in color. It's illustrated. There's pictures in it. Punch some holes in it. Put it in a 3-ring binder. Label it and add a few pages of your own at the end or the beginning or however you want to do it. But it has some very worthwhile information in it that will open your eyes to a lot of things. It's not an end-all book. It's a beginning book. It'll show you some amazing things. It'll give you some orders of how to perform certain high magic. Some of you are going to know more than others. Some of you are going to be more aware than others and be able to, just that little bit of information here or there is going to open up things for you that weren't always available or just out of your reach before. And I try to bring them within reach. I try to use as generic a language as I can, so that it applies to just about anybody. I had some really wonderful emails back from a fella in Iran who read the book and just connecting with his own ancestors. He says now he was reading these of his ancestors, the stuff that they wrote, some of the stories, the old Persian stories.
Right.
And he was thinking of them in a very mythological context, in a metaphorical context. And then he read my book, Practical Witchery, and he went back and he looked at them, and it meant something. It was so much more. And it was just opening up. And I was very, very glad for that, because that's what I really wanted to accomplish. Even if you're not a Celt or anything like that, I tried my best to write these in such a way that you could look. I mean, the things I'm telling you are true. You might have different names for different things depending on the culture you came from, but we're talking about the same things. And in this book, I try to open that up and make that understand it. And you can go back to your own family, your own stories, your own clan, and look at what you got and take a look at this and then look back at it again. And it's like, you're going to see things are just going to open up for you. A lot of things that you found difficult or even inconceivable before are going to be right at your fingertips.
Yeah, and we're going to make sure that we get them out to you folks, and I will have a link down in the description section under this video on my YouTube channel where you will be able to actually download all the books in a zip file so you can check them out yourself, so you don't have to scour the internet. They'll all be found in one place. So
that's good. There's about 14 of them there. Some of them, I think 3 of them are full-length novels. Some of them about 9,000, 10,000 words, a novella. Some of them 5,000 words or less, but they all illustrate some things. They can, even if you're reading them for entertainment, they're going to illustrate some things, some truths that you'll be able to see for yourself eventually.
Yeah.
If not right away, or if not that you've already been seeing it and just didn't know what you were looking at.
Well, there you go. But what do you say about the folks who just don't recognize the magic within themselves and say it's all poppycock?
Well, it's like the zombie apocalypse. There's going to be some empty people or cemented so firmly here. And that's the sad part. A lot of times you're going to find earthbound spirits. When you're out ghost hunting, sometimes the haunts that you're finding are just resonances, echoes of violent or intense things that happen there. Sometimes you come across spirits that are stuck here in the here and now because they don't believe in anything else. They never did. They never seen it, never understood it. And you are a soul. You're not just a body. So I don't care who you are. When you drop this carcass, you're still here. Where you go and how you get there and everything depends on how much you're aware of. You've been disconnected from it all. And I'm not trying to make witches out of everybody. I'm trying to make you wiser, which the Gaelic word for witch is wise. But I don't anticipate you all putting on black robes and waving sticks at things and getting all authoritarian on every little critter that comes by you. I anticipate you learning something and learning to reconnect with exactly who you really are, not what they want to make you believe, but who you really are. You really are a powerful being. Your destiny is to grow into a much more greater and powerful being. And that's what God intended for you. The Creator, Mother Danu is trying her best to nurture you along. But some people are going to be earthbound, and that's kind of sad. There's so much more to reach for. But
well,
we do what we can.
Yeah, it's like they say, you have an eternity to get to know yourself, right?
Absolutely. But you should start now.
Right.
Don't let this paradigm that we're in distract you so much that you can't see what's real. Learn what's real about this. It's going to disillusion you about a lot of things, but it's also going to open up so many more fantastic things that you'll just want more and more of. I found this to be true for myself. It's like, yeah, I was facing death last August, and it really wouldn't have been a bad thing for me. It's a better thing that I lived and got out of that crappy place I was at. That was emergency temporary housing, so you got to know it wasn't a nice place.
Oh, yeah.
Hot and cold running roaches and bed bugs and everything else. And you see where I'm at now with my family, my grandsons, helping my grandsons get homeschooled here. It's a nice little house up in the mountains. Yeah. This house was built in 1769, so it's a couple hundred years old. It's got very nice environment around it. I'm kind of in my element, and I'm growing stronger every day. I still have my seizures and stuff, and still have to really monitor my sugar really hard. But my daughter does a mostly Mediterranean and vegan style diet, and it's doing me good.
Oh, yeah.
And at a 62-year-old man, I lost the muscle, and I put it back on. It's not quite as firm as the stuff that I had, but we're trying to get it there.
Yeah, well, you will. Seriously, you're totally in your element, and I can't wait to see pictures of the place when you're in full bloom for summer. Yeah, midsummer.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
And, much love, John, from Lady Law and I as well. We are so happy that we have been able to be a part of as well your reconnecting with your family and just everything that is taking place, because it is rough. It's rough for everybody right now, especially those who understand what's taking place and can see through all the bullshit going on this planet. But, I have to ask you really quick before we hang up. And I'm going to keep you on the line before I hang up as well. Well, after I hang up. So anyway, how would you explain to someone who, is like us and can see all through the crap, but are kind of sick of living amongst the Muggle populace, those who who are being a part of the problem on this planet because they're not awake to their full potential as individuals?
There is a piece of advice my grandma used to give me. I've given to my daughter and more of my craft students, and that what you need is you need to be able to spend time getting away and finding and centering yourself. For me, it was running off into the woods. There was a lot of parks not far from where I lived when I lived back in Rochester, and that. Not so much when I was living in Watertown, but I could get away from the people. You need that ivory tower or that sylvan cottage. They're kind of an archetype. But that's where you find your sanity, because if you stay with these muggles all the time, they're going to really ruin your sanity. After a while, their worldview is going to imprint so hard, you're really not going to see much of the forest for the trees. It's going to interfere with your awareness and everything else. And over time, you'll become a lot like them. I don't think permanently,
Oh
But
God.
it'll be yeah, that would be bad, but it'll be a sad thing. You can lose your soul. You can give it to somebody else, or you can hold on to it. That's what a strong will and word does. But to be able to get yourself away from them, center yourself, draw on that energy, connect with the universe as far as you can. I am a part of this. Not this world, the world as it is. I'm a part of the earth, Mother Danu, her, nature, the universe, God, the cosmos, the creator. I'm elements of both of these. I am a son and I behave like a son. I think like a son. I behave like a son. And I'm a son of a greater father and mother than just an earthly father or mother. If your mom or your dad weren't much to speak of, don't let that trouble you so much, because certain things in you became stronger because you had to take reign for yourself, or somebody came and helped you get through the parts that you wouldn't normally get for yourself. Be thankful for that, but connect to the greater. You are a part. You may not be a Danaan witch, but you're a part of Danu. The earth is a living, breathing, conscious, sentient being. And it's a she. She's definitely a she. She's a nurturing, feminine spirit. But there's also a creator, or a more masculine spirit. Some say it can be either. True on all counts. He's some of all of this. He permeates all of this. Every one of those atoms and stuff that are held together by one mind, one matrix, and it all comes from one place. And that's where you come from. It's what you're a part of. And you have your own free will to do whatever you want with it. But it's like me, I'm looking forward to enjoying all this. I got eternity to explore creation, to see everything there is to see, however amazing, and be a part of it and interact with it as a son. And the same is true of each of you. Remember that you are sons and daughters of something much greater. Don't let them take your power or your namesake or your birthright away. It's yours. Claim it back. They say you got a birth certificate and somebody owns you. Yeah, they like to freaking think so. And for many people, that's true, but only because they believe it's true.
Mm-hmm.
They give that power to them. You take yours back. Don't give a flying hoop-de-doo what numbers are on that birth certificate or anything, or who owns it or whatever. You own you. That's your gift from God Almighty and Mother Earth herself. That's your gift. Do something with it. Use it. Use it for your own ends, to grow, to nurture and cherish others. And, they say the greatest gift given to men or angels is the power to relieve suffering and bring joy. Use it. Become a part of it. That little karmic lesson, everything that you do, good or bad, comes back on you threefold. Look, if God doesn't always pay his freaking bills on the first of the month, if you do all these things, expect no reward back. And, this is karmic money in the bank. You're going to exist forever, whether you're in this body or not. This is just a shell. When you drop it, you go on. Those things that you did, you still have coming back to you, and you'll take that with you. And all the Rothschilds and Rockefellers in the world can't tax it or can't take it away. You have more power than them, because you'll be able to leave this world as it is.
Right.
Into better.
Right on. Thank you very, very much, John. And all right, so we got to do this again soon, maybe midsummer or something like that, for a part 2. You'll have more pictures amassed by then of the area, I think, if you'd like to, of course.
And maybe more orb pictures. Actually, I went out a couple nights ago and took some and caught some orbs around the backyard. And like I say, there's a nice spirit to the whole place. I'm still acclimating to it all and becoming acquainted. I haven't run a wild hunt. I'm not the hunt master here, but I'm still a hunt master.
Right on.
Carry some weight, but not what it played in my old place.
Right. Understood. Well, yeah, because you're in a new place, but you're still reconnecting with the same overall spirit of the planet. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right
That
on.
makes it. I'm still a Danaan witch. I'm still a priest of Danu, or a child of Danu, and so I mean that still makes a difference. The wildlife treats me with a certain amount of respect. However, the bug slammed me the other day pretty good.
Yeah, the midges or whatever they were. But,
oh, they're terrible.
Oh, they are up here too, really bad, especially during the summer. Down and around anything water, streams.
Yeah,
brooks,
there's
whatever.
lots of bogs and that around here too. So it's like a breeding place for them.
Lots of garlic, man. Eat lots of garlic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right on. All right, so everybody, this has been very groovy. I'm going to keep John on the line here, but for everybody else, the show must end. So we send out much love and much safety, much healing to everybody out there, and we will catch you on the flip side, folks. Anything you'd like to say before we head out, John?
Oh, brightest blessings.
Right on. Groovy. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.